Whoop. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, as always, to the 13th round of the 2020/2021 Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series season. Tonight, coming to you live from the virtual Francorchamps, the circuit to Francorchamps, as it is known. It's always important to make sure that I am saying the correct name of one of the most iconic tracks in history, because, well, Spa is a track that more than deserves it. Francorchamps is one of the most incredible racing circuits in the world. Both myself and any driver on the calendar will tell you that, and well, certainly one that is worthy for the second to last road course of our season. We don't have many left in the books, but we are heading to, again, one of my favorite tracks, the favorite of many, and, well, the only road course left on the calendar is Laguna Seca, another great track, and that'll be the double points race that rounds off our season. There's my face. I'm your commentator, as always, and series producer, Mr. Marshall Crocker Jr. I like to keep, a picture at all times that is just a little bit embarrassing in regards to the pictures I have available in my stockpile to use for that. So there's me in a suit. I can assure you that I am not wearing a suit right now, but it certainly is formal enough, I would say, for a broadcasting occasion. My apologies that we were a little bit late getting live tonight. It was a very busy week and very busy day, but managed to get everything just in time to get going for tonight's race. We've got some important things we got to do pre-race before we get the racing action going. We are going to get ready to go for tonight's festivities. In the background, we are just going to have the guys starting out their qualifying laps. Here at Francorchamps, the laps are very long, as you will soon find out. Usually on average, well over 2 minutes. So we have time before guys have made it all the way around the track to start for their first qualifying laps, though there are the drivers speeding by, as you can see. So not much time, but we do have just enough time to go over some of your pre-race festivities, the first of which being we have to go over your track for tonight's race. There is the circuit to Francorchamps, the 19 corners that make up one of the world's most iconic racing venues. Probably the most notable aspects of this track is, of course, Eau Rouge and Raidillon, two of the most popular corners in the entire world, as the corners you just saw the drivers going up in just a moment ago. So they are two famous curves that, well, make Spa one of the most well-known tracks in the world just based on scenery alone. High-speed left and right corners that can be brutal on tires and even more brutal on cold tires. They're tough to traverse, and they're a great passing opportunity down onto the Kemmel Straight, one of the longest straightaways in F1, one of the longest straightaways on iRacing, leading into Lake Holmes and Malmedy, one of the toughest two-corner duos that can create some passing opportunities, though they are a little bit thin. For Veg there, you see corner number 8 is a very fun downhill right-hand sweeper that can create, again, some great opportunities for cars to get side by side. The rest of the track is relatively standard, but then we get up to the final chicane that, in this map, is just known as chicane, so is known for plenty of passing opportunities in that corner as well. We've had really plenty of tracks this season that have had great passing opportunities, and tonight's race is no different. We're going to go live to your current driver, I believe, at the head of the field as it comes to getting around the track in preparation for their first lap. This is Mr. Andrew Bedrosian, sitting second place in points, and there is Logan Paxa. We'll mention more about his livery later, but he did actually design this himself from the ground up. He has passed on from the traditional Terra livery that he usually runs most weeks and has now moved on to something a little different. So that's exciting. Good to see we're going to switch it up for Mr. Logan Paxa, and, well, he is talented in many ways, multifaceted driver, you can say, because not only is he good on track, he is great at putting together the paints that he gets around on track in always very, very fast manner. So looking forward to seeing what he can do tonight. Again, he has 8 wins into this season and only, what is that? I guess overall 13 races if you include the doubleheader at Detroit. So he's had an incredible season at this point, and you got to wonder, what is it going to take for a guy like Andrew Bedrosian, who's come very close many times to finally get over that barrier that seems to be there for him and get that win that he's been looking for a long time. So we'll see if tonight's the night that Andrew can get win number 2 this season. But for now, you got to get your graphics up here for qualifying. So there you go. There's the drivers getting ready to set their opening lap times. Here you can see Logan Paxa and Andrew Bedrosian kind of battling back and forth, not exactly giving each other too much space to start their laps for tonight, but hopefully they stay out of each other's way and they can get started on their qualifying attempts. As you can see, Jack Hillier, Carl Dronke, and Caleb Campbell just finishing up their laps and getting around the track to start their first qualifying attempts.
Nobody is on the board yet. We need somebody to cross the starting line for that to happen, but the tracking data will be up in just a moment, so we'll bring that down for the moment. Not quite relevant as of yet. So we are 3 minutes into qualifying overall, and again, it's a very long track here at Spa-Francorchamps, one that Andrew Bedrosian was fastest at in the first sector, as you can see. Again, just a reminder for those of you that may not have been here the rest of the season, the purple sectors you see at the bottom there are meaning that driver has been fastest of anybody. That is the fastest sector that sector has been run all day. Green means it's the driver's personal best. That's the best they've run in that sector all day. And yellow means it is worse than their personal best. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad time. It just means it's not as good as they have been at other points in practice and in qualifying. And from my personal perspective, at least what we've seen in practice this week, you can really run your fastest time in practice at any point throughout the race. So there is plenty of time for guys to get their fastest lap of the night all throughout the qualifying session. Only 13 drivers in the field tonight, I should say, before we see Logan Paxek come around for his first lap, as well as Andrew Bedrosian, the first two drivers to run a full lap in qualifying. Logan was fastest in sectors 2 and 3, Andrew Bedrosian in the first. David Paxek and Max Preston not too far behind them on track. So we'll see as we come through the final couple of corners what they can muster on their very first attempts. Here is Logan Paxek coming up to the start-finish line for his very first lap. Andrew Bedrosian was quickest in sector 4, so these are going to be two very close laps. You've seen all the way around the track. They were virtually inseparable, so let's see what they can run first time out. Logan's fastest in the final sector as he pulls away from Andrew. He will run a 2:16.689. Andrew goes just slower with a 2... Oh, got to do the quick math. It's going to be about a 2:17 somewhere in the ballpark of the... Sorry, 2:16.7. Trevor Anderson is going to go third. David Paxek goes fourth. So there are your starting times for the very first lap of tonight's qualifying session. Mr. Marshall Crocker Sr. is going to run about 4 seconds off the pace. Then Tanner Dignard comes home fifth. And Rich Foligno sixth on their very first attempt. And really a big thing that we'll be talking about all night that is very important at this track is track limits. It's something that can really set the best from the rest. And here at Spa, it's borderline impossible in some sections to avoid an off track. There are just so many sweeping corners that the lower downforce levels this car can be tougher to keep it on track in some sections. So it's always very important to keep that in mind when you're trying to set a blazing qualifying time. And you've run some great sectors up to a certain point. You got to watch out and make sure that you don't run a little bit too wide and lose yourself the ability to run that lap for points. Here's Carl Dronke coming across. He will run a 2:18.692, which will put him about 2 seconds down off the pole lap and puts him provisionally fifth in tonight's session. Caleb Campbell, I believe, is just finishing up a lap momentarily as he comes through the final chicane in just a moment in that Oreo number 11 car. Caleb always gets some good support in our YouTube chats, and well, good support is usually an understatement. So he is surely going to have some people cheering for him at home tonight, and hopefully he can do them proud. Here he goes. He crosses the line. I think he's going to be a little bit off the pace from 8th place. Yeah, he's going to go 9th provisionally, but still probably 2, maybe 3 more laps left for Caleb to improve that time. He's going to walk up actually through corner number 1 and slide through the corner a little bit. So going to have to try again and go for another pass. Back to Logan Paxek, though. He has pulled away pretty considerably from Andrew, as you can see, and he was fastest in sectors 2 and 3, and all week Logan was just incredible here. The consistency that he runs at such fast lap times and his ability to, despite his pace, avoid off tracks is something that's going to be vital for him tonight. And you know, at this point, you're this far into the season, you got 3 races to go, you're at 8 wins. Gotta wonder if in his head, in addition to trying to clinch the championship, he's thinking maybe going for 10 and trying to go double digits with it. But through the final corner, first he's got to do well in qualifying. He was fastest in sectors 2 and 3. Somebody else was fastest in sector 4. Maybe Andrew Bedrosian's old sector time. But through the final corner, can Logan improve? I think he will. By how much? 2:16.5. Andrew comes close within less than 2/10, but still not quite enough. He's going to have to use that slipstream to his advantage here down the Kemble Straight. Max Preston is going to go third there. You see, he's running a different livery tonight. I believe he's still running the Arrows livery he ran last week. He's going to slide through the corner. Didn't manage to make it around in time, so unfortunately Max is going to need to try one more pass here at this lap. But you know, he's doing his very best there, going to third. And I know he's had a lot of technical issues the last few weeks. You see a small camera blip there, but I believe he's got at least a little bit more stability out of his VR. So hopefully this is the week that he can get a entire race from start to finish without issue. And well, if he can do that, he's definitely a favorite to finish in the top 5 and certainly even the top 3. But Justin Lulick, you saw as he just finished up a lap a moment ago, he's going to go 6th provisionally, just under 2 seconds down from Logan Paxek's best time to this point. So definitely room for improvement, but he's not too far off of David Paxek and Trevor Anderson, so that is certainly in the cards. Carl Dronke is the next driver to finish up his lap, comes out of the final corner in the number 38 car. Does not look like he'll improve on his best time for now, so still has a couple more passes to try to improve upon that lap time. Caleb Campbell is going to come through the final couple of corners.
I believe this corner is Blanchimont that he just went through. Of course, this is it's a Belgian circuit, actually. Spa is in Belgium, as we, well, I don't think we had that on the graphic. So yes, Spa is a circuit in Belgium. It's the Belgian Grand Prix in F1. Logan Pax is taken to the pits, so not sure if he was just happy with his lap time and decided to stop trying, or if he just had a spin or something like that. But Andrew is going to stay on track, keep trying to take that pole for himself, and Andrew's had his fair share of poles this season. I think he might even be tied with Logan in that regard. So, well, Andrew has been the master of poles this season, so let's see if he can add one more. Here is Jack Hillier through the final corner, running his current Renault livery, or I guess the former Renault livery. Now Renault been rebranded to Alpine, so they have a new name, but he is not going to run an official lap time, meaning that at some point throughout the lap he did go off into the off-road and extended track limit. So Tim Salvatore becomes the final driver besides Jack Hillier yet to run a qualifying lap to count. And those two are the only two left to try to set a time. Andrew Bedrosian does not go faster in Sector 4, so he's going to need an amazing final chicane here if he wants to beat Logan Pax's provisional pole time. Logan Pax is still in the pits. He's just chilling and waiting, and Andrew's going to get one more pass at it, and Carl Dronke will enter the pits as well. So 1 more minute to go in qualifying. Not a lot of time here at Spa-Francorchamps. You really don't get that many attempts. Andrew will not be better that time, so he's going to have to take one more pass at it if he wants to improve. Max Preston gets sliding through the final corner. Trevor Anderson, can he improve past Max Preston? Only about 0.07 of a second separating them. He cannot, so neither will Max. Neither driver will improve. David Paxson will not improve. Tim Salvatore, I don't think will improve. I wonder if we're just seeing tire fall off quicker than usual, but Tim Salvatore runs his first lap and goes 7th provisionally. 0.07 of a second up on Carl Dronke. There is Max Preston at his outside, the two almost coming together, but Max is going to get off the track, and he is going to finish up for the session. He is essentially out of contention for one more lap because this is his last flying chance, and he is considerably off the pace there. So no more chances for him. Keeping an eye on track of guys running fastest sectors, but we haven't seen one in a while. So as the checkered flag comes out, guys will have to finish up their current laps if they want to improve their times. And really, with what we've been seeing, guys set all their fast laps there at the beginning, unless it's just a track limits thing, and guys are on newer tires, or grippier tires. Once they warm up a little bit, they're just setting slower times because they're extending track limits. But again, we see all yellow sectors for each of the top 4, or at least the next 4 drivers to run a lap. So maybe that's what we're seeing. Maybe those colder tires at the beginning just provide, a little bit more oversteer, if anything, and at some tracks that can be helpful. Oversteer is not always generally a bad word. It's just, it does imply that the car is slipperier than you'd like, though Trevor Anderson here, as we can see in the 25 San Diego Padres entry, did improve his time in Sector 2, so potential for Trevor to leapfrog Max Preston, and as we'll see when we put up the point standings in a moment, those two are very close in the battle for 3rd in the championship. And remember, 3rd is, I know I haven't brought this up much in the season, but the top 3 are prize-paying positions, as well as the driver with the least overall incident points on average throughout the 13 races that they count this season that are not their 2 drop races. So that's another thing to go for this season. So there is prize money to be won there at the end of the year, and you got to think guys are going to go for it as best they can. I joked about this with Max Preston, but maybe he can use the prize money there if he finishes 3rd in the championship to buy himself a new VR cable, if that's his problem that keeps giving him technical issues. So always good to do that for a fellow driver. But here is Andrew Bedrosian's final attempt as he takes Eleanor, his Ferrari entry that he has named himself, as he takes through the final corner. Can he improve upon his lap time? I don't think it'll be quick enough. It will not, so he will stay 2nd. Logan Paxson will take the pole for tonight's event. He is going to pull off and come to a full stop. But Trevor Anderson through the final corner. He was fastest in Sector 2 of all of his attempts. He does not improve either, so Trevor Anderson will stay 4th. Max will hold on to 3rd for the time being. That is Tim Salvatore come through the final corner. Will he improve? You see him there in the background. He will not. So again, it looks like by the end of the session, guys have just run out of pace. And Justin Luke, though, he might be able to improve. He was fastest in 2 sectors of his personal best, and he will. He'll go to 4th. Just barely leapfrogs Trevor Anderson by 0.02 of a second. Very tight margin for him there, but he will not improve. It would seem Marshall Crocker as well is going to stick with the time he ran previous. So running I believe it's a cow entry. I like that a lot. So running a cow entry with, wow, that's pretty fancy. I'm liking what I'm seeing there. So something a little bit different for the number 15 car, and he heads off the track. Only Rich Foligno and Caleb Campbell left on track, but I don't believe their laps will count. Foligno's will not, and neither will Caleb Campbell's. So that brings us to the end of the session. We can pull your graphics down, at least for this current session. But now it is time to show you your championship standings. Of course, we cannot show you the proper standings for qualifying as of yet, because they are not displayed on our screen. But there, that is not what it is called. iRacing wants to put up the wrong standings, and I don't know why it's confused. As you may wonder why it says BRL Auto Club 8, I ran a different series the other day because the series I run on Wednesdays, I commentate for a series called the Bandit Racing League. It's hosted on a channel called Evan Wall Media. So if you ever want to come by and see a NASCAR event on Wednesdays, we always host those there. So that's another place you can find me. But I had to solo host that race the other day. So well, the graphics for some reason aren't cooperating. So there's what it says. None of that is right. SDK Gaming is the software I use to make these graphics. So if you have any interest in using a graphic software like this in the future, that's the link you go to, and just disregard there at the top. There we go, we've reset. So thank you, program, for catching up to me there. But there are your championship points heading into tonight's race. Now, I didn't have time to do both points. Again, it was very busy. So there's no overall points. This is just the drop race points. So these are essentially the points that matter for our series. These are the points that include 2 races dropped out of the first 13 so far in the season. For each driver, so that your worst results don't count because everybody has bad races. So there are 11 there are 11 races counted for each driver in the season, and there are the points. Logan Paxson commanding 64-point lead on Andrew Bedrosian tonight. Can't clinch the championship, but he can certainly do his best to basically put a stop to any hopes of Andrew snagging it away from him in the last 2 races, even with the double points at Laguna. So essentially 3 races. But Logan can really put an end to his championship hopes tonight if Logan can win and try to force Andrew into a bad result, or I guess not force him, but if Andrew happens to just have a bad night and Logan has a great night, maybe wins the race, that would essentially put the championship on ice. So there are your top 2, though Andrew is still definitely in contention, and he's shown some passion in the last 2 weeks. He's always quick, only just a couple thousandths of a second off of Logan. Sorry, a couple tenths, or hundredths, I should say. So always there, always has the potential to put himself up in that upper echelon. But then Trevor Anderson and Max Preston within 10 points of each other, battling for that 3rd place spot in the championship. They've been having some great battles in the points all season, so we'll see the next chapter of that tonight. Then Tim Salvatore, who got a podium last week, Carl Dronke, who won our double points race at Indianapolis earlier this season, both definitely in contention as well to take over that 3rd spot, so not a big gap separating those 4 drivers. And Paxa, Crocker, Foligno, Campbell round out your top 10. Tanner Digner, Justin Lewick, Manuel Guerra, Jack Hillier are your top 14. Then Mahan, Guerra, Hart, and Krobach have not been able to consistently make it out this season, so they are on the points there, but they have not been updated in quite a while. So that is your results in the championship, at least going into tonight's race. And we got to hurry because it is not a long warm-up lap here. They only run part of the lap here at Spa-Francorchamps because it's a track where the laps under pace car speed take 4 minutes, and we didn't want to do that, so I'll have to hurry. But there are your qualifying results for tonight's event. Logan Paxson, your pole sitter for what I believe is the 6th time this season, running a 2:16.585 lap. That gives you a good idea of how long the laps here will be here at Spa in our 30-lap event in tonight's race. Then Andrew Bedrosian down by less than 0.2 of a second, not too far behind in 2nd, so that front row, you got to think they're going to have speed tonight. Max Preston sitting there in 3rd, about a 1.5 seconds back, just ahead of his good friend Justin Lewick and Trevor Anderson, his championship adversary, battling with for 3rd. After that, David Paxa in the 6th position, Tim Salvatore, Carl Dronke, Rich Foligno, and Tanner Dignard will pull this down. We got to get going. The pace car is on to pit road. Green flag tonight for the 13th round of the season at Spa-Francorchamps, and well, the timing tower has decided to break, but we'll bring that up in just a moment. We got a race to call into the first corner. Always very tough to keep the car from locking up. Max Preston already into 2nd. Sends the car underneath Andrew Bedrosian. Just didn't get up to speed as he would have liked. So Max Preston on the very first lap is up a spot. Trevor Anderson as well, jumping by Justin Lewick there on the restart. So he is not waiting around. He is not wasting his time. And we're just going to reset the graphics here quickly so we can have a working timing tower. But as we come through the first corner up the Eau Rouge Radion doubleheader, looks like still no caution. So throughout the field, we must be all good to this point. I do see a caution, though. I may have spoken too soon. I believe we've had our first caution of the race, and it seems to involve Tanner Dignard in a significant portion of Caleb Campbell's car missing. The timing tower would have been wrong there for just a moment, but it looks like it was coming up Eau Rouge. We get just a replay here of that incident. So this is the combination of Tanner Dignard and Caleb Campbell. We'll put up the name there, but it is the combination of both. So Tanner Dignard coming up the hill. That is Tanner in the yellow Menards car on the outside, Caleb Campbell on the inside, and just cuts down a little bit too hard there on Caleb Campbell as we come up the hill, and they tap and get together. Were the guys behind able to make it around? Jack Hillier avoided, and who is that other car there in the yellow? That was Manuel Guerra. Manuel did clip the incident and lost a tire there. So the big thing that I didn't really get time to mention with how quick the intro had to be, but I mean, the other thing about Eau Rouge that makes it such an interesting corner is you really don't get that much time to react to what you're seeing in front of you. So here is the view from Manuel Guerra as we come up the hill. Just pull your music down there. So this is Manuel Guerra's view as he comes up the hill towards Eau Rouge. As you can see, all the drivers heading through up ahead. There's the crash you can see between Campbell and Dignard, both heading off into the outside wall and bouncing back. He doesn't know where to go. He sees
He sees Jack Hillier at the last second, and just tiniest bit of his tire clips the outside of one of those two cars. I think that was Dignard, so not much room to work with. They're going to go one more time and see Marshall Crocker's perspective of that incident, because he was right behind it as it happened. Let's see as he comes up the hill. This is his view coming up to Eau Rouge. So Eau Rouge, the left-hander, Radion is the right-hander. You see those two get together, bounce off the wall, but he's quick enough to go by it and doesn't need to worry, and the caution, I believe, comes out almost immediately after. So plenty of time to react. One more thing, it's a little ways further back, but I want to watch that pass for second, which will remain for second. I don't believe that Andrew was able to get his spot back in time before we... a small bit of confusion here. Oh, my computer is getting fused. There we go. So we had a small bit of chaos there at the very beginning when Max in the very first corner made the move there on Andrew. I don't know if he was off the pace as a result of the first corner, but here's the race start. Justin Lueck. Okay, we're going to go right to the very beginning there as we wait for the pace car to bring the field around. So this is the proper race start here on lap 1. There is Bedrosian to the outside of Logan Paxa there. Logan gets the outside line through the chicane, but it means he gets the inside line for corner 1. Justin gets right up to the back bumper, almost puts it to the inside. So, yeah, it didn't look like Andrew necessarily did anything wrong. Max just got an incredible jump there on the inside in the 6 car and just sent it by underneath. Trevor Anderson, I think, almost would have had the opportunity as well to make the move, but he opted against it. Justin Lueck dropped all the way back to 5th there off the start. And somebody went real wide there through the corner. That was David Paxa, had to go off into the runoff road to avoid, and well, we had a great battle through turn number 1. It was just didn't quite have enough time to keep that battle going because, as you can see, we are under caution for the first time in this race. That lap count is wrong. I don't know. I don't think I've ever had that happen here on iRacing, but I can confirm that it is lap 1 of 30. We did get around for the start of the lap, so we will have time to get the race going again. And laps do count under caution, so I don't know why that is the case. But iRacing is truly a mystery at times, and I just wish sometimes it would be less of one. So, we have the time. Spa, of course, a track that, he's right in the pace car. I was going to say we're going to go to Logan Pax and do a bit of a through-the-field segment, specifically because Logan Pax's car tonight is one he designed himself. We saw it from Heather there in the chat, calling out his livery. And yeah, Logan's livery tonight, referencing, of course, Burrell Art, something that for our American viewers coming here for one of the American drivers, it may not make a ton of sense, but Burrell Art calls back to Logan's real-life karting career, and the fact that he was able to make such a beautiful livery using that logo and to complement his color scheme is really impressive. So certainly one of the best-looking liveries in the field, deserving of the driver currently leading the points. And again, he designed it himself from the ground up. So Logan, a multi-talented driver in the series, and he got the number to match. That 16 car is looking quick. It was your pole sitter tonight, and I didn't unfortunately get the time to change his car color tonight. Many of them are going to be a little bit off. It was a very hectic, chaotic run to the race tonight, but there is Logan Paxa, now currently sitting in first position. Now to Max Preston, who, well, he didn't really waste time. He didn't really mess around there at the start. Went immediately for the throat there on Andrew Bedrosian and got the spot in corner number 1. He's now moved up to second, and again, he's had a lot of tech issues this season. I talked to him quite a bit before the race about his VR and seeing if everything would be okay tonight, and though he did say that it wasn't perfect, he had some issues with it this week. He said that in an hour of testing earlier, it went fine, and that is longer than it usually lasts. So hopefully things stay consistent for Max Preston. And now he's already made his way past the second place driver in the championship, and now he's looking to hold down the third place spot in the title picture. Here's Andrew Bedrosian currently sitting third, driving Eleanor, the Ferrari livery that he has translated into a car of his own. He sits third in the points, and well, you got to think that it's not a huge sample size to judge the fact that he's already lost a spot there on lap 1, only in one corner, and partially as a result of an ideal starting lane there coming out of the final turn in the the start of the race. So got to think he'll be working his way back through the field as quickly as he can to keep up with his championship adversary, Logan Paxa, who he only has 3 more races to battle with to the championship finale. Trevor Anderson behind them, running another livery that he created himself, this time for the San Diego Padres. I presume his preferred team because of where he lives. But here is Trevor Anderson's entry, another one of the most impressive looking cars in the field. He's another driver who's had a great season to this point, currently sits third in the point standings all by himself. There was a tie a couple weeks back between himself and Max Preston, but that tie has been broken, and now Trevor holds down that third spot in the championship. So Trevor, you got to see what we're going to see from him tonight. He's already going to win this season at one of the Detroit doubleheaders, where he fended off Logan Paxa in one of the races of this season. Well, fended off isn't exactly the right term. He won pretty significantly, partially off of just consistency. It's one of the things I've prided Trevor on all year, but Trevor is not a guy that makes mistakes, so we'll see if that holds true tonight. There is the 25 car in action.
Behind him, though, Justin Lulick, another driver who gets a great turnout here in the chat some days. I know he has quite the following of himself. But there is Mr. Justin Lulick running the Dams Formula 2 car that he's run all season in the number 7 entry. A guy who was really quick this week in practice. He came out to the first practice of the week, and Justin isn't always able to make the time to do so. So, gotta wonder if that practice will additionally help pay off. The laps have reset themselves, and they are now correct. So we'll get some more proper timing standings here as we come across the line. But yeah, Justin Lulick now sitting in the top 5. He's dropped 1 spot there off the restart, but we'll have to see in the longer run once he gets a little bit more time to work with what that number 7 car will be up to. Yeah, to Tim Salvatore, who dropped off 3 spots as well there off the start. Or no, he didn't. Sorry, my timing software likes to think that he started 3rd because it all reset, but he did not. So Tim Salvatore, though, did finish 3rd last week. He finished 3rd in our race at, already forgetting where we were, Silverstone, when I had Jack Hillier spotting in with me in the broadcast booth on the side. So Tim Salvatore back again, looking to keep that tradition going. He was really quick there in practice as well, just a little bit off the pace from his practice pace in qualifying. So we'll see if he can bring that up, even things out, and try to get some spots here on this next restart. Try to go 2 for 2 on podium positions, and he's another guy in the points that could definitely more than compete for that 3rd place spot in the championship. So we'll see what he can get up to in the rest of this race, but I'd imagine Tim Salvatore could have a very eventful next restart. David Paxa in behind, a driver who surprisingly to this point does not have a podium this season, but he's come very close many times. Several 4ths this year, including I believe a 4th last week at Silverstone. So definitely some recent momentum by the 53 car. We'll see if he can keep that going and get all ready to go for this next restart. Again, another guy like Tim Salvatore may be able to capitalize on some chaos up front with some more aggressive guys going for championship positions there at the top. David could be a guy that, because he is in the ballpark of that 3rd place spot too, could capitalize on some relatively quiet action in front of him, maybe make his way up through the championship standings. Carl Dronke behind him, of course, our winner at the double points race at Indianapolis. We have 2 double points races on the season, and he's won 1 of them. So a guy that thrives in clutch moments does the 38 car. We'll see if he's got what it takes to win the race tonight. Wasn't able to make it to practice this week, which normally he is, so we'll see if he's had the time to put in tonight. But sometimes the guys that don't get time to practice, as we saw earlier this year when Max Preston said he barely had any time at all, and running with a new wheel, won at Mosport. So there's definitely precedent for it. We'll see if that is the case tonight. Carl starts the restart in 8th position. Rich Foligno is still running that Lotus entry that he ran last week at the Legacy Silverstone F1 themed race, and the number 99 car sits in 9th. Probably the one guy in the history of any series I've ever put on. I've said before, probably has the worst luck and has the most potential, in my opinion, to get a race win of anybody that has not yet. So Rich Foligno, man, he's consistent. He's going to capitalize on perhaps guys getting disqualified because of incident point limits tonight here at Spa, or just the chaos around him. If he's able to avoid it and that bad luck is finally able to equal out, Rich Foligno in that Lotus entry could be a guy to watch. And he's also just, flat out quick at a lot of tracks. He has a lot of pace really everywhere, and one of the guys that in this series that doesn't really seem to be flat out bad at any single track. So we will see what Rich has in the tank for the rest of the night. Marshall Crocker, my father there, running in the number 15 cow entry. I like the cow-spotted livery there. Something a little bit different. He currently sits in 10th. Came very close in his own right to a few podiums this season, including 1 at Monza and 1 at Iowa, as well as in Indianapolis. Could have very well had the win if not for a crash in the final corner. So he's had a season that could lend itself to a podium in one of these races. In Spa, I know he hasn't felt particularly quick here this week, but Spa, one of his favorite tracks, one of his, probably his favorite in the entire world, and one of the ones that he knows best of any. Him and I used to run 24-hour races together back in the day on an old simulator called GTR2. So we've got plenty of experience here, and we'll see if he can channel that tonight, maybe pick up some pace over the course of the race, and come home with a good finish. Then Jack Hillier, my buddy from the broadcast booth last week, he's back on the track. Hopefully you guys all saw last week in the Silverstone race where he slotted into the broadcast booth and took over in that regard with me as my co-commentator. So now he's back on track here in the number 11 Renault livery, and we'll see if he can put it to good use. Maybe Jack Hillier could be going for his best finish of the season in tonight's event. Tanner Dignard is on the lead lap. Everybody's still on the lead lap as long as they can catch up to the pace car before the race start. So Tanner Dignard in the 55 car trying to catch up to the group. Same with Manuel Guerra in the 12 and Caleb Campbell in the 11 car as they attempt to catch up to the field. We'll go over them a little bit more later. We still have time because the lights in the pace car are on. So another full lap to go before we go back to green. Tanner Dignard has time to catch up. Same with Manuel Guerra and Caleb Campbell. So we'll go over them for just a moment. Here is Tanner Dignard. Surprisingly doesn't have a podium to this point in the season. We have so many guys that get close, can just, get into that, top 4, top 5 range, but have just narrowly missed out on it this year. And I think his best chance of the season really came at Iowa. He was incredible at Iowa to start off the season. Or sorry, just our what was that, third oval of the season. So he's shown pace in the ovals this year. The road courses as well. He just hasn't been able to translate it quite into that podium spot that I'm sure he's looking for. But we go to Gateway next week in our final road course, or sorry, final oval of the season. And that's another night oval, so that's one that you guys will want to watch. We're going to try to get every driver that's run at any point this season back on track for Gateway, make it a nice, big, fancy oval event to end off the season. And hopefully Tanner can thrive in that environment. But this week, I'm sure he's going to go for the best points he possibly can at Spa and try to put that Menards number 55 car back into the top 5 and maybe even onto the podium. Then the Diabolic Motorsports entry of Manuel Guerra sitting there in the 12 car. He is, had kind of a quiet season, really. I don't think he was able to make it last week. No, he was able to make it at Silverstone. So he's had kind of a quiet year, but again, Manuel, kind of a guy similar to the tier of Rich Foligno or something like that, in terms of they can just thrive in races where chaos happens around them. They don't seem to make mistakes, but he has tapped Caleb Campbell. The two guys have made contact on track. The 11 and the 12 have come together. He has got steering damage. Manuel Guerra, I think that's the back left tire. Oh, that is just, what has happened there? We got to see that very quickly one more time. I don't know if it was just like because the blind corner through Eau Rouge just didn't check up in time. Was running a little bit off the pace. What a weird little incident there. So him and Caleb Campbell get together. I guess we'll talk about it as we speak. Well, Manuel did have to go back to the pits with damage. That is, wow. That is not what you want to see for one of our 14 drivers in tonight's race. But there's Caleb Campbell now, the final driver on the lead lap. In the number 11 Oreo car he's run all season. And Caleb Campbell got his first podium of the season a few weeks back at Iowa. Again, we go to another oval similar to that one next week, so maybe that is opportunity for podium number 2. But just because Caleb got that podium, which was such a great moment there a couple weeks back, doesn't mean that he's done for the season. I mean, the 11 car, though he's had races where he's just seemed like he didn't quite get the practice time he needed. When he feels practiced up for a race and he comes out to all the practices in the week, he is consistent. He comes out, he runs his laps, and he doesn't really falter, and he doesn't seem to make solo mistakes on his own, which is more than can be said for even some of the best in the series. So, Caleb Campbell, I mean, he's a guy starting at the back here from the start, and I mean, 25 laps is a long time at Spa, but he'll definitely have to get through the field if he wants to go for another top 5 this year, as he's had a couple of. So Caleb Campbell definitely got to look out for, but he is going to have some positions to make up. Back to the front here, though, with Logan Paxa, as we see the lights on the pace car are off. And there is your field. Everybody's swerving back and forth, trying to get the tires warmed up for this next restart. Well, we have a moment before we go green. We're just going to throw up the race info. Some information about your Spa-Francorchamps track. So there is the information in tonight's race with the track temperature of 26 degrees Celsius. Sorry, that's the weather in the air. That is not the track temp. The track temp is 44 degrees Celsius, so very hot track tonight. Going to be some slippery tires, and well, the Indy Pro car has already been tough with the new iRacing build in terms of grip. It's something this car struggles with, and you can't exactly throw it into corners. So with the hotter track temp, it's going to be a little bit slipperier, and definitely something to watch out for. Barely no wind, though. Partly cloudy conditions as always, and a very hot day here in Belgium at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. An altitude 414 meters, which I don't have context for how tall that is, but there's certainly a lot of altitude change here in Spa. So it's one of those tracks that you include Eau Rouge, you include the long uphill, downhill sections that categorize the beginning and end of the lap. It's just such a fascinating track, and it's really an amazing, what's the word I'm looking for? Geographical wonder, even more than it is a racetrack, though it is an incredible racetrack as well. And it's a racetrack we're finally going to get to see in a moment. The lights on the pace car are off as we come through the final corner before that world-famous final chicane here at Spa-Francorchamps. So there is your timing tower. Everybody but Manuel Guerra is back on the lead lap. Again, that unfortunate crash there with Caleb Campbell as we saw under the pace car conditions, and a very bizarre incident, but hopefully the last one we'll see of its nature both today and the rest of the season. But there are your top 13, and there is your leader, Mr. Logan Pax, as he comes through the final corner in that Burrell Art white, black, and red car he designed himself. We are ready to go. Hold on your hats for some more racing action. Logan full speed out of the final corner. Green flag here at Spa-Francorchamps for round number 13 of the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series season. Second time I've said it today, and hopefully we can get our first fully green flag lap of the day. Into the first corner goes Logan Paxa and Max Preston. He holds off Andrew Bedrosian through the first corner. Justin Lewick is still there. Tim Salvatore in behind. Then a bit of a gap back to David Paxa after that, with Carl Dronke right behind him. Rich Foligno, Marshall Crocker all in a straight line in the top 10. Carl Dronke taps the inside of that right side wall, but he is continuing on and is still going. Max Preston, though, was broken away quite significantly from Andrew Bedrosian up the first hill, but, well, here at Spa, with the Kemmel Straight, you can never really count yourself out of a passing opportunity. Trevor Anderson right on the back end of Andrew Bedrosian. Keep an eye on him. Does the over-under move to force Andrew to the inside? Is it going to force Andrew off the track? It doesn't. Great breaking point there from Andrew Bedrosian. That was some heads-up awareness driving there, and kept the car perfectly into the braking zone. Andrew holds off Trevor through the very first lap. Not too much change here on this restart since the very beginning. Justin Luke sitting there in 5th still. Tim Salvatore keeping up behind, but David Paxa and Carl Dronke not too far away from each other. They could have a pretty good battle here going in just a moment. There is the 53 car and the 38 cars. They come down the hill. This is down the hill up towards that left-hander that I talked about earlier. This is a corner that is brutal for track limits. That's one thing you got to really watch out for. And again, I talked about it earlier, but we do have a 20 incident point limit here in our series, meaning for every 20 off tracks or every 5 crashes that a driver receives, they are immediately disqualified from the session, because traditionally if a driver has gone that far without taking damage, then they have been doing things on track that are deemed, well, inappropriate and penalty worthy in regards to this series. So that is why we have that rule, but it is very tough to keep under the limits of that rule here at Spa with so many opportunities to go off track, and that corner is one of them. We'll see if anybody washes out, and they don't. So guys making very sure to keep off that left white line, that if they go over it, could give them an off-track penalty that could potentially put them out of this race. Manuel Guerra has returned to the track, or at least he's exiting the pits as we speak, so he will maintain his lap. And if we get a caution in the near future before Logan is able to catch him, if he is, then Manuel will stay on the lead lap, and that is what you want to hear if you are a Manuel Guerra fan. Here is the battle continuing between Andrew Bedrosian and Trevor Anderson. Trevor's a guy that you really don't see making too many aggressive passes here, but he has had some nice send attempts here on Andrew Bedrosian, so he is really pushing that number 25 car to its absolute limits. Down into turn number 1. Again, not a great passing zone if the guy in front of you holds to the inside line, but that time, no good opportunities. But again, Trevor right on his back bumper. You got to think putting Andrew Bedrosian on defense at the very beginning is not what he wants in his attempt to catch up to Logan Paxa, the guy who's battling for a championship. A comfortable Logan Paxa at a technical road course like Spa is exactly the nature he thrives in. Max Preston is just within the reach of the slipstream on Logan, but side by side go Trevor and Andrew. Trevor to the outside, Andrew to the inside. We saw this exact scenario last time, but Trevor's much further up to the outside of that car. He is ahead going into the braking zone, but he's going to hold on to the line. Andrew holds the inside, Trevor still to the outside, but he's going to have to slot back into 4th. Great defensive work from Andrew Bedrosian, and further back in the pack, a pass by Tanner Dignard on Marshall Crocker. Yes, indeed, so the 55 Menards car has passed that 15 entry and now puts himself into the top 10. Back up in the front a little bit, that battle between David Pax and Carl Dronke we saw before still raging on. Carl is just not getting off the back of that car, and it's interesting to see where guys catch and where they don't in this track. I mean, if you catch somebody on the Kimmel Straight, usually it means that, well, you were quick enough at the end of the lap that you were able to get into the slipstream zone of that long, I think, 2+ kilometer straightaway. And if you catch somebody in here, it means you're better at the technical sections of Spa, and more than likely you'll be faster on your own once you make it past that car you're chasing. But this battle will continue on. We will come back to it later if it excels, or if it heightens in any way, we'll say. There's not a good adjective for that, at least not coming to my head. Or at least, sorry, the verb is what we're looking for. But back to Max Preston. Well, he was trying to chase down Logan Paxa, but Logan is now broken away by 1.7 seconds. That lead is extending, so now the battle becomes between Max Preston, Andrew Bedrosian, and Trevor Anderson, 3 guys that have been very entertaining all season. As we come through Blanchimont up towards that final final chicane, I should say. Max to the inside. Now Andrew's going to jump to the outside. He did get close enough. Andrew has been deadly from this part of the track all week in practice, but Max is going to hold him to his line. Andrew slides through, but misses the back end of Max. Great defensive maneuver, and Trevor's going to go underneath. Trevor takes advantage of the battle. Andrew will slot in behind, and just like that, the 2 guys battled for 3rd in the championship have now taken over 2nd and 3rd in tonight's race. Great move there by Trevor Anderson. That is awareness, and that is resourcefulness. And the 25 car can now chase down his 3rd place in the championship adversary, Mr. Max Preston, with a little bit more positional security. Great racing we've seen so far in the very first lap, and really, Andrew Bedrosian, the momentum is not shifting in his favor, but he's been one of the quickest all week. He was only 2/10 down on Logan Paxa in qualifying, and he was about a second clear of everybody else. So we know he's got the pace. He's just got to really get into the zone and really just get by these guys as quick as he can if he wants to go track down Logan Paxa, which, for championship's sake, has to be his ultimate goal. Looks to the inside, but thinks better of it. He's got plenty of time, and Trevor Anderson, I didn't quite understand just how close he got there, but he got right behind Max Preston into that braking zone. He has not given him much room to work with. A little bit further back in the field, we'll keep an eye on this battle, of course, but Justin Lulick is closing in on the back of Andrew Bedrosian as this battle continues on, and that's what you want to see if you're any driver here at a track as tricky as Spa, is guys in large packs that are going to slow each other down in terms of pure pace. So Justin Lulick is in the perfect spot to capitalize on some sort of incident up here. and he's got Tim Salvatore not too far behind. David Paxa behind him, still battling with Carl Dronke up the hill. And that's Mr. Rich Foligno there in the background. Although this battle hasn't really heightened, they've kept a pretty consistent distance to this point in the race, so maybe running almost identical lap times through every corner are those two particular entries. But this battle still, look at the 5 cars we're seeing fighting here at Spa. That's Preston there in the orange livery, Trevor Anderson there in that San Diego Padres kind of beige, white, and brown livery. Trevor Anderson right behind him as we come through this high-speed section. Andrew's going to be in the draft though on Trevor. Anderson's going to look to the inside. Bedrosian's going to go around. Who is Max going to block? He can block Andrew with the run on the high side, or he can block Trevor with the good run there on the low side. This is going to get technical here through the corner. Andrew's past Anderson. Now he's going to go for Preston, make it 2 for 2. Preston gets loose. Preston goes around. He's just sideways on track, getting to a halt, but he is still on track. Going to try to do a quick flick turn. Does not need to go back to the pits. But man, it looks like Max Preston just a little bit too hard of a left-hand flick there to get it around the corner with Bedrosian, who was outside, and Bedrosian puts the pressure on and gets 2 passes done in the span of about 10 seconds. Great move there by Bedrosian. Anderson taps the back of him into the braking zone. Anderson and Bedrosian, the back left tire has gone off that car. Trevor Anderson just makes the tiniest mistake, slides through the braking zone, and there goes Andrew Bedrosian's rear wheel. Anderson's car still fine, but Bedrosian has gone to the pits. That is huge. And with Anderson still on track and not going around, it will not bring out a caution. So, whoa, how this has changed. Justin Lewick is in second now. That is Tim Salvatore now going for the pass on Trevor Anderson. Pax is into the top 5. He's got Dronke trying to pass him, so Salvatore is going to get Anderson into turn number 3 as long as he can hold the inside line, and he will. The question is, does Anderson have damage? Because if he does, he made hard contact with Bedrosian from behind there. It looked like his wing had buckled, but it came back just a moment later. This battle between Dronke and Pax is getting even more severe as well. Some great racing here at Spa-Francorchamps, but again, the top 3 changed so significantly in the span of 1 lap. Now, Paxa, Lewick, Salvatore, your top 3. Andrew's still in the pits, and if he can get out of the pits in time, then he will have time for a caution to put him back on the lead lap. But here is Paxa and Dronke as we come down the hill. We'll keep an eye there on that battle for 3rd, as well as the battle now forming between Tanner Dignard and Max Preston, who's trying to make his way back through the field after that earlier mistake. Whoa, Paxa going to go real wide there, avoids a track limits violation, but really not going to get a good run out of the corner, and it will pay off. Carl Dronke capitalizes on that mistake, keeps the car clean for enough laps to take over possession of the 5th position. Now we can look up the road to Trevor Anderson, who, if he has damage, might start getting some momentum that sends him back towards the 38 car. So Carl Dronke back now into the top 5. He is the final driver to do so this race. Rich Foligno will now try to track down David Paxa through this high-speed left-hand kink here up the hill into the, slightly up the hill, but this straightaway section. There is Jack Hilliard, who I believe is going to stay out of the way for the leading cars. There he goes. He'll head off to the outside, but Max Preston, I was just mentioning, Max, who's now on a recovery drive. He makes the move there on Tanner Dignard down the straight. Tons of momentum for the number 6 car. Didn't look like too hard of a move, so he now moves up into the 8th spot. Tanner Dignard down into 9th. And Max continues his charge back through the field after that spin just a moment ago in his battle with Andrew and Trevor. So what a first couple laps here we've seen at Spa-Francorchamps. And this track, if you guys remember back from the old Carts to Computers days, it has been known for its insane battles. So we had quite the race here in Season 2, and well, I'm hoping that'll be the same case here tonight in the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series 13th round at Spa-Francorchamps. We're going to go back to this battle with Tim Salvatore and Trevor Anderson. Trevor, again, I speculated might have damage, but how he's been able to keep up with Tim through some very tricky sections of this track seems to suggest that, well, that car is still in business. There is Logan Pax coming past the camera. You can see the gap he's got to the rest of the field behind. Justin Lewick is smooth sailing by himself. He's going to focus on trying to close that gap. This will be a good pass between Carl Dronke and David Paxa, or at least it was looking like it would be, but David Paxa didn't quite get the momentum he would have needed to make that move. And Rich Foligno is keeping his presence known here in this battle. The 99 car, the Lotus, gets a little bit wonky there through that final corner. Lost a little bit of traction there in the back end, but keeps it on track. Nice save there by the 99 car. And he will continue his charge up the field to keep up with these 2 guys ahead of him. This battle effectively for 5th. David Pax has gone off. Rich Foligno will get 6th provisionally. Huge damage to the right side tires there on David Pax's car. And we got to go back and see what happened there. You can see the massive damage to the number, that's the 53 car? Yes, the 53 car of David Paxa. So he's coming down the hill. Let's keep an eye on what happened to him. This right-hand sweeper can be tough on downforce on colder tires. What a weird incident. The car just snaps on him right-handed, or it takes a right-hand snap on him, and that was a bizarre incident. I don't think I've ever seen a car in that lane have that much of an issue. I mean, he wasn't like hugging the inside or anything. That just looked like a really severe incident for, surprisingly so, for where he was on track. So David Paxa, yet another casualty of this very tough Spa-Francorchamps track, and Andrew Bedrosian will return to the racing surface. As we put up the track map, he is still on the lead lap, so Andrew Bedrosian, another recovery drive similar to Max Preston's, but if we get a caution in the near future, which is always a possibility, he will remain on the lead lap. So Andrew Bedrosian, if he wants to prove himself as deserving of this championship that Logan's done so good of a job at holding down, well, this would be the kind of race that would stake his claim as, well, one of the top 2 guys in the series, and maybe even the best at season's end. So he will continue his way down the track on colder tires, trying to get them warmed up and trying to continue his charge up the field. Let's go back now again to this battle between Tim Salvatore and Trevor Anderson. This battle for third, and Justin Lewick not too far up the road. About a second clear of Salvatore, which would be just out of draft range. But Salvatore is only 0.6 clear of Anderson, and that is plenty of room for Trevor Anderson to get right behind him and try to use that slipstream to his advantage. Here is the gyro cam on Trevor Anderson's car as we come up the straightaway. This is the Kemmel straight. You can see how much room he makes up, even on the timing tower, but it is not going to be enough. He's going to need a good corner here through turn number, I think 5 and 6 or 7 and 8. Lots of corners here at Spa-Francorchamps, but didn't quite get the momentum he needs. But Tim Salvatore was really quick through that section of corners. He is making up ground to Justin Lewick as we speak. So Tim Salvatore, his season best finish is third, but you got to think he's looking for more than that. He's going to try to go for second in this race for all he's worth. And again, depending on what happens to Logan Paxa, who seems to be very comfortable up ahead in that that number 16 car. Well, that number 1 position, I could say. He seems comfortable, but again, anything can happen at a track such as Spa-Francorchamps. Going to go back a little ways to another battle on track, this time between Tanner Dignard and Marshall Crocker. Marshall Crocker, of course, in that 15 entry, the 55 car of Tanner Dignard, trying to chase down Max Preston, who, despite that aggressive move there on Tanner Dignard to get back through the field, and he is making up time in a hurry. Well, I could say that in reference to the guys behind him, but in reference to the guys ahead, Rich Foligno and Carl Dronke keeping a pretty comfortable window of room ahead to him, so he's going to need to pick up the pace a little bit if he wants to catch these guys before a potential caution or before the next pit strategy cycle. David Paxa has returned to the track, though, has somehow returned ahead of Andrew Bedrosian, I guess because his crash was just later, so in terms of track position, he will still hold that advantage over Andrew Bedrosian, who is losing some time to Logan. And if he wants to keep it on the lead lap, he's going to have to hold that 15-second gap he's got to Logan, and he can't give that up over the course of the race before a potential caution. Back up to the front, though, this is Tim Salvatore and Trevor Anderson coming out of the final corner to start lap number 11, so we're now a third of the way through tonight's event. And that number 91 car is looking smooth tonight. I mean, even in that battle earlier, he just kind of hung out, did what he needed to do to stay out of a potential incident. There to the inside is Manuel Guerra, keeping out of the way of the field. Nobody out of the race yet at this point in tonight's event, so good to see everybody rolling with the punches, staying on track, and keeping it competitive. Again, this battle between Salvatore and Anderson is heated up a couple times through the Kemmel Straight. Right now, not seeing any considerable run here from Anderson, but this will be more so what he's looking for. He's getting real close up to the back end as he comes towards the braking zone. Let's go to Trevor Anderson's onboard cam once again. This is the number 25 car's perspective as he comes towards Tim Salvatore's back end, but not quite enough time to work with. We'll keep an eye on him through these next couple corners. He had some struggles here last lap, and now Tim Salvatore taking too much of the curb this lap. Might be what Trevor Anderson needs to rattle off a few good braking points and maybe make up some of that time a little bit further back in the field. Tanner Dignard and Marshall Crocker having a good battle into the braking zone. Tanner Dignard is going to hold on, but Marshall Crocker did temporarily take over the 8th place spot. So we'll have to keep an eye on those two gentlemen. Now they're coming down the hill in towards that right-hand number 8 sweeper. Always a tough corner to really keep that the lower downforce of these baseline Indy Pro cars. It can be tough to, once the tires start to go in the car, keep that downforce to the level that you don't do what David Paxa had happen to him a couple laps back and just lose the back end as you come off the exit in that corner. But everybody's done a pretty good job of keeping it safe through that exit, I should say, all race, which is good to see. Possible track limits violation there for Tanner Dignard, but again, you get, if you don't have a crash, 20 of them in the race. So he's got plenty to burn, but again, I assure you guys that those can add up quick throughout the course of a race. Once again, this battle between Tim Salvatore and Trevor Anderson, no doubt a track limit violation that time, but again, it does not matter if he gets the move done. And Trevor Anderson is right behind Tim Salvatore. He's actually lifting a little bit here through the corners. He is well back. I guess it's just time in this move. He's going to go for the chicane here, or maybe he just doesn't even want the spot yet. But whatever it may be, he's going to need a better run up towards the chicane. Is he going to look to the inside? No, he's just going to stick in behind him and not worry about the position for the time being. I kind of like the approach here from Trevor Anderson, because however they're doing it, they are catching Justin Lulick. Justin's gap is starting to shrink there up in that number 7 car. And if I was Trevor Anderson, I'm the same way. If I want second place, I'm just going to wait and, well, let this battle form up between Tim Salvatore and Justin Lulick. And again, Justin maybe those older tires giving him a little bit of trouble, whereas Tim Salvatore and Trevor Anderson don't seem to be losing too much pace. We'll keep an eye here on the gearbox cam off the back of Justin Lulick's car as we come up through Eau Rouge, just to show you the gap between himself and Tim Salvatore. But we might have to switch. Salvatore's getting real close as we come up the hill. An aggressive send here to the outside by the number 91 car. So he's not going to have the ideal line in the braking zone. He's going to want to get all the way around if he wants to make this move work. We've seen how dominant those cars in the inside line could be when it comes to holding down the apex in this next corner. And we see it again. Justin Lulick is going to hold the spot, but Trevor Anderson thought about the inside. Peeked it to the inside here, and this looks like an exact copy of a very similar situation that only involved Anderson of these 3 drivers, but the battle between Preston, Bedrosian, and Anderson earlier that had very similar scenario. And if you're the driver in the middle, really more so than anybody else, you're at the most, pressureful situation, because you not only have to worry about keeping the car off the car in front of you, but you got to worry about not checking up the guy behind you. There's just so much around you and your peripherals to worry about, and this is certainly one of those scenarios where having the VR setup would be much more ideal than the single monitor setup that I and many other guys use. So something to think about. But Justin Lulick ran much quicker through that last sector and pulled away by just a little bit. So he is going to stay in that second place spot, which would be his best finish of the year if he was able to hold on to it. So you got to think Justin Lulick is going to hold that spot down for whatever he's worth. But Tim Salvatore right behind, not giving up much room. And again, Trevor Anderson still in the conversation. This straightaway, we've seen so many potential moves here throughout the event, and this could be another situation like that. Here they come through the corner once again. That final right-hander can be so pivotal because it depends how much of a risk do you want to take on track limits and how much do you want to focus on your momentum up through this next straight. Tim Salvatore through the left-hander, one more left-hander through Blanchimont. Kind of determines your entire potential to make a pass here in the final chicane. And, well, Tim is thinking about a move, but again, I don't think he'll be able to commit to the outside line well enough. Could go for the over-under, but everybody looks like they make it cleanly here through that final set of corners. Maybe a slight tap there from Salvatore to Lulick. I don't think I can confirm that for fully, but Rich Foligno has made the move on Carl Dronke, and Carl has fallen back significantly. So Rich Foligno back into the top 5. Great race for the number 99 car so far. Carl Dronke is going to give up that 6th spot to Mr. Rich Foligno. But he's not too far back, though he's not very far ahead of Max Preston, another guy who we know has a lot of pace. He qualified up towards the front for a reason. But he was also in that battle there for the longest time in 2nd, and now that he's all the way down in 7th, got to think that he's going to be punching a little bit above his weight here in just a moment if he's able to, work that pace up into a battle with Carl Dronke. But Carl, he's an experienced driver on iRacing. He's one of those guys that can have defensive maneuvers that some other drivers just can't, and that's something to think about. But this battle is heating up into turn number 4. Lulick's got the inside line once again, so Salvatore, as good of a send as he had on the outside up through Eau Rouge, not going to be able to capitalize once again, and that's going to be so crucial. Is for drivers that are trying to defend down the Kemmel Straight, you got to hold the inside, but not to the point where holding it will prevent you from blocking, which could give the guy on the outside the run and just the pure momentum that they need to get all the way around. And if that happens, well, once they get to pick their line into that corner number, 4, that first right-hander before the left-hander there at the end of the Kemmel Straight, if you can pick your own line, you can determine your next line for the next couple corners, and at that point, it becomes very easy to drive away from the car trying to make the pass on you, or the car that you just made the pass on. So, man, it's such a technical track this spot. That's why it's incredible. It's just such a different beast in so many sections that, as a driver, there's no one way to approach this track. You have to be good in so many different domains and so many different, factors of racing. It's an incredible venue, and I'm so glad that we have it on the calendar this season. Again, we're going to come through this final right-hander before this big, long straightaway up towards that final corner. This has been a great passing spot a couple times. Now Tim Salvatore gets to the inside. He has learned his lesson from those last couple of attempts. He's going to get to the inside on Justin Lulick's car. Up towards Blanchimont. This is a hard passing zone in some scenarios, but he gets entirely clear. Tim Salvatore washes out. Saves it, though, as we cross the line. He'll lose the spot to Anderson. And keep an eye on Trevor Anderson, because he got a great run there. It won't work, but man, I thought he might make the move on Lulick as well. He was just so solid there through Blanchimont once those two guys almost got together, but great save by Tim Salvatore. That shows you well, it shows you one thing. It is that it can be so hard to keep the car on track here when you get into a situation where you've been on the low downforce so far through the lap because you've spent all of your time in the wake and in the toe of another driver. So by the time you finally get to the corner, you might have a little bit less downforce than you'd expect, and that seemed to be what happened to Tim. But a great save keeps him still in the battle for third. Justin Lewick is going to get a little bit of breathing space. Now going to take about an 8/10 gap to the guys behind. But now Trevor Anderson becomes the guy defending from Tim Salvatore. A total flip from the dynamic just a moment ago. Down the Kemmel Straight once again. Tim Salvatore right on the back bumper of the number 25 car, but he's going to back off a little bit. Looked like Tim just didn't want to bother going for the pass there, and I think he's doing the similar thing to what Trevor Anderson seemed to do a moment ago, is just, focus on the race ahead. Let these two guys, those being Justin Lewick and Trevor Anderson, do their thing. Let them get a little bit of a combat together, and then you can worry about making the move after that. So Tim is losing a little bit of ground here. He was definitely slower through that first sector than he's been all race. It's been one of those sectors that he's actually thrived in. It's why he's had such a successful defensive campaign to this point in the race. But now he's got to play the opposite role. He's got to play the attacker in this situation, and it's a spot that he's played a couple times this season, but now he's got to do it in a much different scenario without the comfort of a podium position already in his back pocket. Been some great racing so far, everybody. I really hope you guys are having a great time tonight, as I am. I know it's been a long year with COVID to start off the year, so hopefully these Friday broadcasts, once they do get exciting racing like this, can be a point of excitement throughout the course of your week. And props to Heather there in the chat on the cow pun. I'm sure my dad would very much appreciate that. We are a very cow pun heavy family, so I appreciate that one. That one's comment of the race so far. That being said, though, still waiting for this battle to reform once again. Kind of a parade forming between these top three, meaning for now we're going to go to a different section of the track. There is David Paxa holding off, or attempting to hold off Andrew Bedrosian, I should say, the final two drivers on the lead lap, trying to avoid the ever-present phantom known as Logan Paxa as he attempts to chase down the two guys that, well, I'd imagine if you're coming from Logan Paxa's perspective, it would be probably nice to lap at this point in the race, because both your father and championship adversary are at risk of going a lap down. And once you go a lap down here at Spa, it is borderline impossible to make it back up without the aid of a caution. So we haven't had a caution yet since that very beginning of the race caution. And, well, momentarily it looked like Tim Salvatore made the move on Trevor Anderson, but it looks like he will hold him off for the time being. We'll keep an eye down the Kemmel Straight. Carl Dronke, that's a horrible camera angle, but Carl Dronke has entered the pits, becomes the first driver on the lead lap to come in for a pit service so far this race. But back to the battle between Trevor Anderson and Tim Salvatore up through Radion, down onto the Kemmel Straight. This is normally a DRS zone, but the Indy Pro cars, of course, not being part of that industry of racing, do not have DRS on them. So, unfortunately, the passing opportunities in this section of the track have to be all natural without the aid of the drag reduction system that is used by F1 to artificially make passes happen. And Andrew Bedrosian, important to mention, has made the move on David Paxa. So, well, Logan Paxa's next challenge in terms of lap traffic becomes his very own father, who, despite running relatively quickly all race and was in the battle there in contention for 6th up until the point where he spun, or maybe even 5th at that point in the race. But of course, he saw that spin earlier in the lap in what I think is corner number 8, in that downhill right-hander that unfortunately put him where he is at this point, now trying to make a recovery drive to stay on the lead lap before a caution does come out. Back to this battle, though. Got to keep an eye on it at all times, because Trevor Anderson and Tim Salvatore have given us, well, maybe 3 races worth of entertainment to this point. They are certainly giving me something to talk about. Both go very wide there onto that outside curbing section. Again, got to keep in mind the off-track limits. It's going to happen again. Trevor Anderson, those older tires, starting to bite him. We're now halfway through the race and 15 laps on a set of tires here at Spa. Think of how many corners that is as compared to the traditional road course. That is going to give you some grip issues, and he goes to the outside, and Tim's just going to slip right underneath. Pass looked almost second nature for Tim. That looked like it was almost planned, but of course, we don't have teams here. We don't have really team orders in this series, so yeah, Trevor Anderson, just the momentum off that corner where he went a little bit wide. That was all it took for Tim to get the run he needed. And now Tim Salvatore, as we come through the final chicane section, now officially at the half-point way of the race. Tim Salvatore now makes his way back up into the top 3, meaning your podium as we come across the line for lap number 16 is Logan Paxa, Justin Lewick, and Tim Salvatore. I don't know why Logan Paxa's 1 doesn't display next to his name, but for whatever reason, it does not. So we'll just have to deal with that for the rest of the race. Tanner Dignard is also coming to the pits in this lap. There we go, a little bit of a better camera angle. Thank you there, iRacing. We haven't had the trees that were very famous in the previous Cars to Computer seasons. That would always mess up my view and prevent me from being able to see the race. So certainly a more ideal change than usual to have those missing, and some new camera angles presented this season at Spa-Francorchamps. And the new PC means that it's a little bit easier to see through them on occasion because they are more heavily textured. Marshall Crocker on pit lane as well. He is entering the pits as we speak, meaning that Carl Drunke will get 2 spots back and will move up to 7th. Of course, he was the first driver on the lead lap to make a pit stop. We'll keep an eye one more time on Tim Salvatore and Trevor Anderson's battle, but after that, we're going to go to a side-by-side, and maybe we'll keep an eye on Trevor Anderson's perspective as he hopes to chase down Tim Salvatore, as we're going to go to a brief side-by-side here for a quick moment, and we'll be right back for the second half of the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series 13th round at Spa-Francorchamps. Only 3 races to go in our season. Hopefully this will be a great race to the finish, and it will determine who is in the running for our championship spots heading into Gateway next week. Be back in a moment. And we are back for continued coverage of round number 13 of the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series season here at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. Andrew Bedrosian has now entered the pits. As we speak, we're going to keep an eye, of course, in this battle between Salvatore and Anderson, but Andrew Bedrosian, the guy that has just had an unfortunately unlucky race to this point. Trevor Anderson has made the move a little ways back on Tim Salvatore. Where is Tim Salvatore? He is in a huge wreck, upside down, coming out of the final turn before the final straightaway. I don't remember the name of the turn, which is why I keep calling it that, but let's see what happened there to Mr. Tim Salvatore. So the 91 car through the final turn just loses the back end. What in the world happened there? Massive wreck. Look at the junked heap that 91 car becomes. Huge wreck there for him. He avoids everybody chasing in behind, but that was bizarre. Just kind of seemed to lose the tiniest bit of traction with the track, and man, what a weird... Let's look at that one more time, but what a weird wreck we just witnessed. Again, here is Tim Salvatore's perspective. Keep an eye on that inside curving. It's just, man, these Indy Pro cars can be just so fickle with downforce on occasion, and gosh, that would be a horrible view as a driver with the lack of halos on these cars in the Indy Pro Series and USF Series in general. Upside down flips can be scary. But Justin Lillick and Trevor Anderson both pitted once we went to the replay, and Justin Lillick is now exiting the pits, and so is Trevor Anderson. So those two gentlemen will stay in the top 5, but are going to move to the tail end of it. Rich Foligno is going to move up into second there in that Lotus entry, being chased down closely by Mr. Max Preston there in the number 6 Arrows livery. Both guys keeping their liveries from last week's F1 Vintage Throwback Week. Tim Salvatore has now entered the pit lane and could possibly stay on the lead lap depending on when he comes into the pits. Sorry, well no, he's already in the pits, so actually he's going to have his pit service for the rest of the race, I should say, but depending when he comes out of the pits. Andrew Bedrosian is now a lap down, but once once Logan Paxton, your race leader, pits, that fact may change, and he should get his lap back, seeing where the number 11 red dot are on the track map and where the number 1 blue dot is. But this is the battle now for second provisionally until both drivers come into the pits. But a 25-26 second pit cycle here at Spa. It's actually a very long pit road, so they're going to give up a significant amount of time to the drivers ahead that are battling for those top podium spots. But hey, always the potential for these two guys to work their way in themselves if we get either a caution or some great laps set down by these guys in older tires before they perform the pit stop for new tires. Tim Salvatore, though, back on track, which is what we like to see after that horrible incident he had just a moment ago. He is back on track, and once he returns, he will not have Trevor Anderson right in front of him on track. Trevor will have a much easier path to the top 3 here, now as he sits comfortably ahead of both Carl Dronke, who has pitted, so is provisionally now in the 4th spot, as well as, hypothetically, Rich Foligno and Max Preston, depending on how long their pit services take. So here is Rich through the final corner, through Blanchimont, right before we get up to that final double hairpin. I keep calling it a chicane, but I don't think it's technically a chicane with how heavily the corners are banked. But here we go through the final corner. Rich getting a much better run through those 2 corners. So Rich Foligno, again, he's a guy I've talked about all season, has yet to score a podium somehow. He did have one last season in the Karting Computers Season 2. He got a podium at Pocono, finished second in that race behind his, at the time, teammate, Mr. Michael Grobach. But in this current season, he's had some great races. He finished 4th at, I think, at Oulton Park he finished, and had a great race as well earlier this season at one of the ovals. I'm trying to remember which one that was. Was it Iowa? Might have been Iowa. It's tough to remember at certain occasions. It's been a long season, and we've had all sorts of great races. Manuel Guerra has now left the race surface in the number 12 car. He appears to be out of the event, and same with Jack Hillier. So both drivers, at least showing up on my telemetry as being out of the event, either as a result of track limits and too many violations for incident points, or some other reason. But Rich Foligno, Max Preston, a battle into corner number 3, and Rich will give up that spot to Max Preston. So great move there by Max. Rich just going to prioritize the long game and let Max head by him. Maybe trying to bank on the fact that on older tires, Max is going to make a mistake sooner. But whatever the case may be, these guys still have not come in for a pit service yet. To my knowledge, at least. Let's put up the pit strategy graphic. No, they are still on track. So there is the pit strategy for each of your top 8 drivers. So Paxa, Preston, Foligno have all pitted. Lewick and Anderson have just pitted. Carl Dronke as well has pitted. He currently sits in 6th. Tanner Dignard in 7th also has come into the pits. And Marshall Crocker, who currently sits in 8th, has also made a pit stop. So Marshall Crocker, man, once all these pit cycles work themselves out, he'll probably still be in 8th, but hey, that is not bad when all things are considered. He'll certainly be a lot closer to the rest of the field once he is evened out on the pit cycle. So not a bad race for the 15 car, if I do say so myself. But we'll pull that graphic down now that we can confirm that the top 3 have yet to come into a pit stop. And just as I say that, your race leader, Mr. Logan Paxa, has made his first and final pit service of the race as he comes in with that 16 car. Again, custom livery he made himself. He is on pit lane and ready to take his service, meaning that Andrew Bedrosian, who is going by in the background, should get his lap back. And let's just make sure we confirm that. Oh, stupid wall. It's the sequel to Stupid Trees, Stupid Pit Wall. Now it's happened twice, but there is Andrew Bedrosian. He will get his lap back on Logan Paxa, and will now go back to chasing down Logan's father, Mr. David Paxa, who I believe has yet to come in for a pit stop. So provisionally, Andrew, with the pit cycle durations, will sit in 10th, at least unless something goes wrong up front. But same as him, Max Preston and Rich Foligno will both come into the pits this time. Not sure if it was just the limits of the fuel tanks, or if Rich made a reactionary move to Max coming in. But whatever the case may be, we'll see who wins the race off pit road between these two gentlemen. Logan Paxa's pit stop went without error. He came straight out and is now back on track in very quick condition. Justin Lewick has now also gone by, so he will take over second again, but this is the race off pit road. Both of these guys are going to be behind Trevor Anderson as well, so this will provisionally become the battle for 4th, unless they can beat Trevor Anderson off pit road, and Max Preston is going to be very close. Max wins the battle off pit road, and now he is right behind Trevor Anderson. This is the renewal of that battle from the start of the race. Max Preston versus Trevor Anderson. We saw it with Andrew Bedrosian in the mix earlier. Bedrosian got the worst end of that, and well, now Trevor and Max, they have got a battle to the finish to fight here. And now Max is going to be very slight, but on slightly new tires. And here at Spa, as we learned in the practice races this week, new tires get up to temp quick, and they are valuable at the end of the race when you have more grip and more rubber left at the end of the race. So this battle will be fun to watch. But again, keep in mind, if something happens here, which we've seen before in this race, it has precedent. Think back to the Andrew Bedrosian battle there, that once he got in an incident there with Trevor Anderson, got him put back just under a lap down. It's something that can happen, and if it does, Rich Foligno, man, he's in the catbird seat. Might have trouble keeping up with Max Preston, but again, if this battle gets serious, and as we saw earlier, if two guys get too focused fighting with each other, which they're going to want to, we're now 2/3 of the way through the race, only 10 laps to go. If Rich can put himself into a good piece of track and put himself in a spot where he can avoid a potential incident if the two guys up ahead get together, Rich could be looking at his first podium of the season. But Tim Salvatore has entered pit road. There's David Paxa. There's Tim Salvatore, so I can confirm no damage to that car, at least coming in. It wasn't a damaged race car. It's not like he had an incident. He just... Wow, it was a very, very soon pit stop after that first one. Of course, you remember just a moment ago, he had that huge flipping crash. That's not me making the crash seem more intense. That's just what happened. He had a huge flip there through corner number... That's corner number 14, that right-hander before that long straightaway we've seen all the passing opportunities in today. He had that big flip there that meant he had to come in for a forced pit stop. Maybe just missed out on something and meant he had to come in for another one. But I would have thought he had pitted late enough to get to the end on fuel and tires, so maybe just thought one more tire stop was necessary. And I mean, it's not a bad idea. Now he gets a free tire stop if we get a caution that would bunch the field up. And again, I don't want to see a caution, and certainly not what I'm hoping for in terms of this race result. But if a crash were to happen between multiple cars, which didn't happen earlier, to clarify, in the Trevor Anderson and Andrew Bedrosian crash, hence why it went without a caution called. But if that happens again in tonight's race, two guys get together in a crash that puts both of them out, we would get a caution and in turn bunch the field up for a race to the finish. And in that situation, Tim Salvatore would have newer tires than the rest of the field, and Andrew Bedrosian would ensure he stays in the lead lap to continue his fight for the championship. So I'm not hoping for one, but it would certainly make things more interesting. I can tell you that much. So Trevor Anderson, man, there he is in the number 25 car. He's done a great job of hitting his marks in these last, lap and a half. He has not really given up any ground to Max Preston. If anything, he's pulling away. So Max Preston, who objectively had more pace there in that last stint, as he was trying to recover from that spin that he had earlier in the battle with Trevor and Andrew. Well, he has since kind of stalled out, and that forward momentum that he's had all race is now kind of put in jeopardy as Trevor Anderson continues to run great sectors. Logan Paxa and Justin Lulick are two guys we haven't really talked about all race, but we haven't really had to. Since Justin avoided that incident earlier that put him all the way up to second, well, he's kind of just been chilling since that Anderson and Bedrosian crash. Nobody's really been able to match his times there in that, end of the top five besides Logan Paxa. So he's been pretty comfortably, but 5 to 6 seconds clear of the rest of the field. You see Trevor Anderson there in the background, but certainly not right on the back bumper of Justin Lulick. So he's pretty comfortable. He can just kind of ride around, got to hit his marks for sure. There are very talented drivers like Anderson and Preston and Foligno behind him. So he's not exactly smooth sailing, but, well, you got to think the race result tonight and all the factors that have come into play have really worked out in his favor and might be all he needs to get his best finish of the season and come home in second. And I know we always have plenty of people supporting Justin here on the YouTube side of things, so it would be a pleasure to see him get a very good result tonight on behalf of all of them. Keeping an eye throughout the field, though. Not too much action to report elsewhere. Here's Trevor Anderson, as I mentioned before, Max Preston. There's Max Preston as he comes through Blanchamont, and Rich Foligno. Again, still keeping his horse in the race here, just a little ways behind. If something goes wrong here for one of these guys up a little ways ahead, he could pick his moment and get his first podium of the season. So something to think about. Has the potential to happen. But for now, we're going to go to another onboard, this time probably with Max Preston. We're going to go to another quick side-by-side commercial break. But I plan for it to be the final one this race, and then we'll be smooth sailing all content to the end of the race. We'll be back in just a moment, ladies and gentlemen. Again, thank you as always for tuning in on your Friday, taking some time out of your week. And I know here in the COVID days, it can be pretty taxing weeks mentally, and to spend some of your time on the first day you get free, spending it with us, watching your loved ones and family members here, or just even friends, racing these races and participate. And even if you just enjoy the racing, to tune in and stop by, and it means a ton to me. I know it means a ton to the drivers, and I really just thank you guys all sincerely from the bottom of my heart for taking time into your Fridays. It's an awesome thing, and we're so glad to have you all. But we're going to take a quick side-by-side break. We'll be back in a moment, and we're going to stay on board with Mr. Max Preston as he attempts to chase down Trevor Anderson, his championship adversary, and for third place in tonight's race. And we're back after another quick break here. As always, on occasion you got to take some water breaks and, restore the old voice, because when you're solo commentary booth again, as I wasn't last week when I had Jack Hillier back in the booth with me. Now that I'm back to solo broadcasting, it's certainly tough on the vocal cords and possibly harder than you can usually express. So sometimes you just got to take water breaks and keep your voice in working condition. Carl Dronke is coming to the pits, and by the looks of it, it was an auto jump to the pits. It looks like he had to tow, so we will check on what happened to him, but keep an eye on this battle between good friends Tim Salvatore and Mr. David Paxa, as they are now reforming a battle here for the 8th position. Both guys that are just barely avoiding going a lap down, as well as Andrew Bedrosian, who has also pitted very recently and sits in 10th. So 3 guys that may be a lap down, trying to run away from Logan Paxa, but they are certainly going to want to take as many positions as they can towards the end of this race. Well, let's go to Carl Dronke. It's been a little while. It'll be tough to go backwards. The number one thing I want in a future season, in addition to a better intro, I do want to get an intro video, by the way, with a proper series theme song, and that way we can get a good intro to each and every broadcast that feels a little bit more high energy. But I digress. The more important thing is what happened to Carl Dronke. This is through turn number 4, that first corner after the Kemmel Straight. Gets a little bit too much grass, it would seem, and noses the car into that outside wall. Solo incident there for the number 38 car. He doesn't make too many of those, but you can see a significant portion of that front right wheel assembly torn off, and he had to jump to the pits. So he is off the track now, and he is going to have to wait to come back. Caleb Campbell, Jack Hillier, and Manuel Guerra all out of the race. Caleb Campbell left not too long ago, and it was not, as you can see, because of incident points, and I'm really sorry to see Caleb Campbell go. Hopefully next week he can try to make it 2 podiums in a row at our race at Gateway. But the context for what those are, as we go back to a battle for the lead here, this is Trevor Anderson, Max Preston continuing to fight for third. But what those X's mean are iRacing has an incident point system. That means for every off-track you get, every time you go off the race surface, you take 1 off-track point, that being 1x. If you make contact with a wall, usually it's about 2x. If you make contact with another car and they don't crash, it's 2x. And if you make contact with another car and you both crash, it is 4x. Side by side. We're going to go back to that in just a moment. But Max Preston, big send up to the inside. Can he commit to it? As we come towards the braking zone, Trevor Anderson's going to have to give up from that outside line. So Max Preston in the Arrows number 6 entry takes over control of third once again. But hey, Trevor Anderson, he was up there in the first place for a reason. I don't think this battle is over. And you know who's really going to benefit from this? You can see him in the background, is Rich Foligno. He wants these 2 guys to start fighting, get the elbows out on each other, and maybe make a mistake of some sort, maybe do something dumb. And if he can get that, then again, that third place finish tonight is still very much in the cards. But yeah, so those incident points are a combination of off tracks, incidents, collisions throughout the race. And again, we have a 20x limit, like a hard cap we set. So Jack Hillier, as you can see, hit the 23x limit, so he was disqualified from the event immediately. It's kind of an unfortunate practice to have to do at times. It's kind of a harsh penalty, but it is something you have to have, because otherwise, you can never know what kind of stuff could go on behind the scenes that maybe Vince and I miss. So always important to make sure that we have some sort of penalty system in order. And even keep in mind, guys like Max Preston, who we are on with now as he tries to defend from Trevor Anderson, but even your race leader, Logan Paxa, of the guys in this race, left on track, Logan Paxa has the most incident points of anybody, so it is not hard to accumulate them. And again, if you go over 20, you are immediately kicked from the race. So you got to think Logan Paxa is going to start blowing it up there in that number 16 car, trying to avoid off tracks, else he may be kicked out of the event. And that's the last thing you want as a race leader. Side by side to the braking zone. Huge commitment from Trevor Anderson on the outside. He just sent it underneath, and unfortunately a little bit too wide to have the proper line through the final corner. So Max Preston will continue to hold down that third spot. He will take the strategic advantage there through that corner and continue on. But man, that was a nice attempt there from Trevor Anderson. Really impressed he was able to commit that far into the braking zone. And again, that's the kind of stuff you want to see, because both guys had to check up, had to alter their strategy and their line and their apexes through that chicane because of how close they were racing to each other. And that is what Rich Foligno wants to see. But up the hill we go. I was going to do kind of a through the field segment here, but first we have to go to this battle between Tim Salvatore and David Paxa. Really sorry that I didn't cover that a little bit earlier, but Tim Salvatore did just make the move a moment ago on David Paxa for 8th. So as Tim Salvatore looks to recover from an earlier incident that put him out of the race there, at least temporarily, in a crash solo in the corner we're coming up to right here, he has since recovered, has made his way back through the field, and is ahead of former second place qualifier and a guy who has had a pretty quiet race all night, but really he's been so committed to just trying to get his way back through the field, Mr. Andrew Bedrosian. He is right behind David Paxa, and you got to think, as he is just going for every point he possibly can, trying to stay ahead of championship rival Logan Paxa on track. You got to think this is going to be an aggressive send here for Andrew Bedrosian. Here he is right behind Logan's own father, Mr. David Pax, as we come through Blanchimont. This is going to be a good attempt for him up to that double hairpin chicane. Going to go to the outside here. Not the ideal line, but yeah, David's just going to give it to him. David Paxa is going to think about the long term, is going to think about his overall race, and he is going to let Andrew have the position. So Andrew Bedrosian working his way through the field once again. Now it is Tim Salvatore in his sights up the road, and well, Tim is not an easy pass by any means. So Tim Salvatore, you got to think, is going to fight him for that number 8 spot. And if not, well, Andrew's quest to avoid Mr. Logan Paxa gets a little bit easier. But you can see here just how close Logan is on track. And that, again, Burrell art livery that he designed himself. He is not that far off this pack ahead. Now guys are just going up Eau Rouge as we speak. The pack of 3 that he's trying to chase down, as well as Carl Dronke, who's right up the road. Long story short, guys that are just praying for a caution, trying to stay on the lead lap. It is going to be easier said than done. But this is the battle. Max Preston and Trevor Anderson. The 6 car to the inside, the 25 car to the outside. Trevor didn't quite get enough momentum to make the move here, but through the final chicane, Trevor is still in the running. He's still in the conversation and going to have a little bit less momentum coming off that final chicane. Usually if you hug right to the inside of that curbing, it doesn't give you quite the run you need off the corner to make a move, but now only 5 laps to go this last time by as Logan came past for the another lap. So 5 to go here. Max is just going to go a little bit off track, and that might be a track limits violation, but we will pull that section of the timing tower down as it's a little bit wide. Max Preston really wide there to that final sector. He's ahead of Trevor Anderson. I think at his best pace, he's a little bit quicker than the 25 car. But man, he has some very erratic, aggressive steering motions at times, and it's something that like works for him. It's really fun to watch, and it's why he's such a fun driver. But man, occasional mistakes can breed occasional consequences, and Trevor Anderson is going to commit and make him pay for those consequences here. Trevor Anderson to the inside, up into turn number 4. He's got the inside of the line. They're going to try to go side by side. Trevor commits to the outside, but Max commits to the inside, still side by side through corner 4, 5, and 6. Max goes wide. Can he recover to the track? He can. Keeps it, puts it in the dirt, but gets it back on track. And he will hold down the spot. What a piece of driving from these two gentlemen. Max Preston had to commit so hard through those corners to keep that car on track, and he wasn't giving up. He was not giving that spot to Trevor, and I know some guys would rather just give the spot up and try to get it back next lap, but Max is fighting for everything he's worth to hold on to that podium spot. What a race he has had so far. We got to go back to this battle now between Tim Salvatore and Andrew Bedrosian through the final chicane. Tim Salvatore in the 91 car doing everything he can to put the, essentially put the 5 cars championship hopes to bed, as Andrew really needs this spot more than anything. The battle is raging on here. Trevor Anderson and Max Preston. Trevor gets him in the very split moment I went away, but Max is still right there, and we're coming up to another passing zone. Again, this time through that long back straightaway here. Well, I guess it's a back straightaway, but it leads back to the front stretch. So whatever it is going to be the location for yet another move, I'd imagine. This time it's Max going to the inside. He defended it earlier this lap, but he has got to get it back this time. Gets right to the inside white line, almost on the curbing here as we come through Blanchimont, but he's going to keep it off. Both guys going to have a good run. Max is back slowly in front, but is Trevor going to go inside or outside? Going to go outside and brakes much earlier, meaning that he might get a better run through the chicane itself, but it's not going to pay off. So for the time being, that battle stays stagnant. This is the battle once again for 8th. Again, probably the first time I've ever had a battle this competitive, 2 minutes and 6 seconds back of the leader, but that's just what Spa-Francorchamps does to you. This is the battle here for 8th position. Andrew Bedrosian right behind through a very technical section of the track. Not easy to pass in this area. But, Andrew almost doesn't have the opportunity yet. Tim has just been so solid. A little bit of a slip up there on exit. That may be the mistake that Andrew needs to capitalize on. David Pax is still there in the background in case something happens here. He has the potential to take that spot over. Logan is right behind Carl Dronke. I think about to make the move here to put the 38 car lap down, and he has. So Carl Dronke becomes the only driver left in the race to go lap down. And Logan will continue his charge up through the field to attempt to put his championship rival a lap down. Preston and Anderson, that battle still happening. We'll go to the braking zone where that's happening. Preston holds off Anderson through corners 4, 5, and 6 again, or at least corner number 4. If Anderson can get a better run off of corner number 6, might have the potential down here into this right-hander. We haven't seen a pass here all day, but I assure you guys it is possible to make a move here on the outside if you get a better run off exit. He does not, though, so this battle will continue. Only 4 laps to go. It'll be 3 when Logan crosses the line. These guys do not have much time, and Trevor Anderson knows that he can make a pass anywhere, and Max Preston knows he's got to defend all the way around. This has been such a fun battle to this point. Back to Salvatore and Bedrosian. This is to the final chicane. Again, 3 more laps at the conclusion of this lap. Both guys trying to stay on the lead lap. Bedrosian will get him underneath through the chicane. Great piece of driving. He set the apex up perfectly. He stuck it in there, but Bedrosian is going to defend hard. Huge defense on Salvatore. Again, he knows his championship hangs in the balance here. He's going to do whatever he can. Oh, smart move there by Salvatore. He didn't care about the corner apex. He wasn't going for the move. He just wants to run here down the straightaway. This is getting elbows out, but Bedrosian is just going to defend everywhere. I do not envy Tim Salvatore in this situation. He is going to have to commit hard to get a pass to work here, and really the inside is his best shot. It goes real wide here, but he's going to have a great run here. Right in the slipstream on the 5 car. He's going to go inside, outside. He's going to go to the outside. Almost makes contact with Bedrosian. Those aggressive blocks might come back to bite him. If these two guys get together, we might have a caution that would throw this whole race into chaos. Bedrosian on the inside. Salvatore all the way around. Can he keep it on track? He can. Bedrosian's going to have to wash out a little bit to the outside to keep the spot, but he does. What a battle we're seeing here. What a battle a little ways further back. Trevor Anderson is off track through the final chicane. Going to go to a very quick replay because we don't really have any time to waste. In an attempt to get right behind Preston and maybe make a move here in a corner number 1. Too tight on the apex through the corner and gets on the curbing and sends it around. I did the exact same thing in a practice race yesterday. On Monday. I know how easy it can be to do just that. So, man, Trevor Anderson, a heartbreaking mistake. That means the battle between him and Preston is over. And now Rich Foligno takes over sole possession of 4th spot. But we got to go back to this battle again between Bedrosian and Salvatore. Bedrosian has broken away a little bit since that great maneuver we saw through 4, 5, and 6. But Salvatore is close enough that he should be able to get the slipstream back here on this next occasion through that long backstretch. So this is not over, but Logan Paxa not too far in the background, almost within the same camera shot now. He is very close to his father, David Paxa, up ahead. And man, again, if he is able to pass Andrew Bedrosian here, walk Andrew into that 8th spot in tonight's race, he'll take about 25 to 30 points off of Andrew Bedrosian, and at that point, again, I couldn't guarantee it. There is still potential for Andrew to have an incredible last 2 races, but the championship would almost be entirely set and done, and that would be quite the monumental, what's the word I'm looking for, symbolism there, if he is able to pass him and put his championship hopes to bed. We'll see if that happens, but for now, we got to keep an eye on the battles all over the track, and this Bedrosian-Salvatore battle, I don't think it is done for a second. Look at how close Salvatore still is. Now David Paxa coming down pit lane, either out of fuel or out of tires, but he just wants to make sure he can get to the end of this thing. Carl Dronke will pass him for 10th. Carl Dronke moves back to the top 10, and Logan Paxa will put his father a lap down. Now it's just Salvatore and Bedrosian ahead, and that's the battle we're going to keep an eye on as we come up the hill here through Eau Rouge. There are the off tracks once again. Logan Paxa getting dangerously close to 30, but now 2 laps to go when he crossed the line last time by. Just has to ease that car around for a couple more laps to avoid the penalties. We'll take those off for the time being, but this is the battle once again between Andrew Bedrosian and Tim Salvatore. And with how quick they were there at the beginning, the pace they showed in the first stint, I never would have guessed this battle would be for 8th by the end of the race, but that's just what the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series can do sometimes. Our races can occasionally get a little bit loony, and that's what we've seen tonight. A great race here at Spa-Francorchamps, but certainly one that has not been easy for any driver, and you got to thank Andrew Bedrosian if he comes home with 8th here. That would be the most well-earned and most hardly fought 8th place maybe anybody has ever received. So Andrew doing his very best here. We're going to go to the static cameras. We come down the hill here, down towards, I think that's turn number 11 here, this left-hander. One of the toughest in terms of track limits and keeping cars on older tires on the apex. They both do. Looks like they're both going to avoid the track limits violations, which is good to see. Later in the race, the last thing you want is a penalty or a disqualification that takes you out of the event. So they're both keeping it on track, and they're both staying well ahead of Logan Paxa, who, to be fair, I'd imagine is probably starting to ease off on the gas pedal here. Just trying to nurse the car back around and keep that 37-second gap to 2nd where it is to ensure his 9th win of the season. But again, Bedrosian is just not making mistakes here. He's doing his very best to pull away from Salvatore, and Tim is going to have to put together an incredible lap here to move back into 8th, and at this point, again, you could argue both guys deserve more, so it'd be very disheartening to have all this effort, make all these great moves that Salvatore has, and only come home with 8th. But again, it's a competitive series, and if you can take any points possible, always best to go for whatever championship points you can. Logan Paxa is going to come up to the line in just a moment for the white flag. Battles throughout the field are kind of stagnant at this point. Max Preston is 4 seconds clear of Rich Foligno for 4th, so looks like he will come home with a podium spot, and one that was not easy to earn. So that'll be the rest of his race, I'd imagine. Just got to keep it on track. But here is Logan Paxa. One more lap to go for the number 16 car. Again, the new livery tonight, it is working for him. He's going to go 1 for 1 running that new Burrell Art number 16 car, and I'll try to get his number fixed for next week. But man, It's what happens here at Spa-Francorchamps. I know Michael Krobach took advantage of this track and I believe won it in our last season, but this track has just been Logan Pax's domain. It's so technical, so many different sections, and in terms of adapting to different sections on a racetrack, not many do it better than Logan Pax. So we'll come back to him later, but this is the battle for 8th. Salvatore trying to renew his run here on Andrew Bedrosian just to make sure he has enough momentum. Bedrosian to the inside, Salvatore to the outside. We saw this exact same situation a lap ago. Salvatore this time much better at committing to the inside the line. Bedrosian going to go as far to the outside as he can to get a good run. Salvatore to the outside, but might send it to the inside here. This would be a huge pass into turn number 8. But no, Bedrosian's momentum from the outside lane keeps him just ahead. But this battle is not over. What a great battle for 8th to end off the night, really. This will probably be the final competitive battle for a top spot. The top 5 looks all set. Tanner Dignard should come home 6th. Marshall Crocker should come home 7th. And it looks like we are almost done. But both guys should be able to keep it a lap ahead of Logan Paxa. And you got to think, regardless of position that they come home with, that'll be a good point of pride for both guys that they were able to come home and stay on the lead lap. But again, this battle has just been incredible. Tim Salvatore, what a job he's done to stay right behind the guy that was, a second and a half clear of anybody else in the top 5 besides Logan Pax. Like, he has been incredible on pace all week, and Tim Salvatore is matching him blow for blow. So, what a performance tonight from Salvatore. Again, they're going to have to go one more lap around once Paxa crosses the line. But speaking of Logan Paxa, man, I feel like I have to give a similar speech like this every week, but it's always my pleasure to do so, because you'd be hard pressed to find a guy more deserving of such accolades, such success than a guy like Logan Paxa. He's so successful in his real life karting endeavors, and so much of it comes down to skill, but an equal amount of it comes down to patience. He's got the truly the intangibles that are hard to define in a race car driver, but he has every single one of them. That new livery is well earned. I know his sponsorship opportunities are getting better, and they are well earned as well. Logan Paxa through the final corner will win round number 13 of the season at Spa and get win number 9. The championship is almost put to bed. Logan Paxa doing whatever he can to lock it up. Congratulations, Logan Paxa. Yet another win at a road course this season. And he'll try to go for 10 at both Gateway and Laguna Seca in the next 2 weeks. Marshall Crocker, as he exits the pit road, did he run out of fuel there in that last lap? As I said, he was almost guaranteed to go for 7th. But now that he's had to come into the pit road, now that he's had to come into the pits, I should say, that hope is over. So the 15 car, he'll have to settle for 9th. David Paxa has come across the line, so he can officially guarantee 9th at minimum. But this battle between Salvatore and Bedrosian, we are back again one more time on the final lap. Down into turn number 4. Through the 4, 5, 6 section, Salvatore, much better run there on the outside this time. But again, still not giving up as Andrew Bedrosian. Salvatore's going to wash out, but they're both going to keep it on track. Great awareness there from Bedrosian to prevent a collision between the two of them. The first side-by-side battle we've seen through turn number 8 all day. This is what you like to see. Bedrosian gets the run there for that first corner, but now Salvatore will have a better run here through this corner here in turn number 10, but it's not going to work for him, so he's going to have to wait. You just got to keep behind him here through this last section of the track, and then go for that big long straightaway as his point of attack. And if he can do that, he might be able to come home with a 7th place spot. Salvatore, though, still right behind. I don't think he's going to go for it in here. It's a little bit too far back, and it's not a great passing zone through this 1-2 chicane section. So towards the end of the lap, everybody else is finished. Both guys are going to get 6th and 7th. Tanner Dignard has left the race, left before he crossed the finish line. So Tanner Dignard is going to be scored 8th provisionally. Marshall Crocker might get that position as well. I think he will, so I think Marshall Crocker is going to come home 8th. This battle that was previously for 9th now becomes the battle for 6th, and Tim Salvatore, one more chance. That was the corner that he spun in earlier this race, and since then he's been on a spirited recovery drive. One more chance. Salvatore's going to get a great run. He's going to go to the inside here. Through they make contact. They have both drivers with damage. Both guys significant steering damage. They are both slowing. Tim Salvatore, I think, is going to try to push him back to the finish. I think he's going to do the good sportsman-like thing. But Marshall Crocker, out of nowhere, a guy that had 7th a moment ago, sees both guys damaged up front. Crocker is going to take 2 positions out of nowhere in the 15 car. And the most extraordinary final lap ever. Has to pit for one more lap of fuel. Gets back on track and finishes it off. Marshall Crocker comes home for 6th. Tim Salvatore's car still in working enough condition to come home 7th. That tire is buckled on the front left, but it should be enough to come home for 7th. What a oh, he comes into the wall. I think he can get there, though. He can. What a bizarre finish. And Andrew Bedrosian's luck, which, man, tonight it was just not on its game. Andrew Bedrosian, man, will have to come home for 8th, which, I mean, considering where he was a lap ago, it's a spot up, but heartbreaking end of the night for Andrew Bedrosian. Really just not the race that he would have wanted in his championship hopes at all, and wow, that was unfortunate. Andrew just had a, not by his own fault, but just horrible night, unfortunately, here tonight at Spa-Francorchamps. Did not get what he needed in the championship fight, and twice just getting involved in battles with other drivers when you run at such a high standard and such close margins. It is just something that you can kind of expect to happen once in a while. And Tim Salvatore, though, tried to do the respectful thing, tried to do the sportsmanlike thing, and you can see, and tried to push him back to the pits, but did not work for him. You can see there Bedrosian's car just too dug into the gravel. And let's see that from one more shot. Maybe go to a chopper camera just to see how close the margins were, because it didn't even look like from my original camera that they touched. That's why I kind of hesitated to call it, because I was like, I don't actually know what we just watched. So here it is one more time. That's Bedrosian up front in the red car, the maroon car of Salvatore. A last-minute pass, just a little bit too late. Bedrosian didn't quite give him the room. Maybe didn't know that the pass was coming. He didn't think Salvatore was going to send it there, but he did. And well, Bedrosian, just the left tires buckled too much as a result of the collision and was not able to get the car back home. So Andrew Bedrosian, he is not going to be happy with that. But Tim, at least he did the respectful thing and tried to get him back to the pits. But again, Marshall Crocker capitalized and he came home for 6th. One thing I missed in all of this, and Justin Lewick and Max Preston are still on track, so maybe we'll have to see what they're up to in a little bit. But we never even saw Logan Pax's celebrations. It's just, there's too much to go over here, I tell you, people at Spa-Francorchamps. There's always just so much to talk about, and we'll see how long his victory burnouts were. We got to go way back here. There he is. So Logan Pax are running that for the first time ever, his very own Burrell art livery he designed from the ground up. He brings it home in first, as he's done so many times this season. Gets win number 9. Where is the graphic? We got to put it up. There it is. That is not the footage. Well, we can't use it. I forgot to fix that after last week. But we'll put up some music. Background music. There you go. There you go. There's some celebrations. Race winner tonight, Mr. Logan Paxa. We've seen it many a time this season. And again, 10 wins is within the realm of possibility. He's got 2 weeks to do so and get to double-digit wins for the first time since Karts and Computers Season 1, where I believe he won either 11 or 12 races in that calendar. He is just, man, if he gets dominant and if he gets momentum in a season, it does not slow down. So, with that being said, we are now finished in tonight's festivities. We can put up your final results. I don't know who that was in the background, but Justin Lewick has not left the race venue yet. So, I mean, hey, I paid for the session, man. Use it to all you guys want. If you guys want to keep running laps post-race, they can feel more than welcome to, because we've got the server till 10 o'clock. So, feel free to, ladies and gentlemen, but besides that, that's not the point. We can now put up your final race results for tonight's round number 13 of the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. Your race winner tonight by a margin of 42 seconds. He was unstoppable tonight, and from that very first caution restart, he did not look back. Logan Paxa, for the 9th time this season, is your race winner. We will talk to him post-race once again. Justin Lewick, though, ties his season best performance with 2nd. Great performance tonight by the 7 car. He was really just unstoppable. There were no moments where he didn't look like he was in the driver's seat comfortably, and of course I mean that symbolically, not literally, because he was in the driver's seat all race. But yeah, he just didn't seem to make mistakes, and that was probably the most composed and calm Justin Lewick I've seen all season, and it was a good look for him. It was a great race for him tonight, and our many Justin Lewick fans in the chat have to be more than appreciative to see such a good result from him. But Max Preston, a good friend of his, finishes behind. Max had a very complicated race, very difficult from the start. Great battle from Trevor, and between Trevor, himself, and Andrew Early resulted in a crash that will put himself around. Originally a spin that put him out of that battle. But once Trevor and Andrew got together and he got by Rich Foligno, there was no looking back. And he comes home for what I believe is podium number 4 this season. Max Preston in his battle for 3rd in the championship with Trevor. That'll make things ever the more closer. And just what a drive tonight from Max. After that, Rich Foligno ties his best performance of the season. Comes home for 4th in the 99 car. He has been hot as of late. He has had some great performances in these last 5 races. And again, going to Gateway next week, where truly I think anybody can win. That'll be very, very similar to our race at Iowa. I can't wait to see that. So if you guys like the competitive oval racing we've had so many times this season, tune in next week, and I'm sure you'll see plenty of it. But Rich Foligno, I'm really hoping for a podium for him. He's had such a great year, and maybe that will be the place. Trevor Anderson, though, another guy, a crazy race, an early collision with Andrew Bedrosian that put Andrew behind the 8 ball, and I think gave Trevor some damage as well. Meant that he had a tough night, and well, there towards the end, I thought it was all but secured, but one spin for him, one tiny mistake there through that final chicane gave Rich Foligno 4th, and he'll still come away with the top 5, but his championship adversary for 3rd in the title, Max Preston, will come home 2 spots ahead. After that, the last minute shenanigans that put Marshall Crocker in 6th are no doubt going to appeal to his senses, but overall, despite the fact that he wasn't feeling super confident coming in, he made it work here at Spa, a track he knows very well, and sometimes that's all you need, is just to have knowledge of the track at hand, and well, that will work itself out. So Marshall Crocker comes home 6th, Tim Salvatore comes home 7th in that battle with Andrew Bedrosian. I'm sure that those final scenarios are not exactly what Andrew or Tim envisioned, but you got tight racing here in an open wheel car, and sometimes it's just what's going to happen. So Tim Salvatore will come home 7th. Tanner Dignard, who was in 5th up until the final lap, mysteriously left and exited the server. So he's 6th until the final lap, and he'll unfortunately have to settle for 8th. Not the way you wanted his race to end, and I'm really curious as to know what happened there for the number 55, but I'm sure he will do his very best to, again, similar to Rich, get his first podium of the season next week at the discipline he has done very well at all season. Andrew Bedrosian, man, started 2nd tonight, had that crash with Trevor Anderson earlier in the race. Kind of a flip reverse of what happened at Monza earlier this season. A very similar incident happened there, where Andrew got into Trevor from behind, and now a very similar scenario flipped around. So Andrew Bedrosian, he was put behind the 8 ball early, a great recovery drive to stay on the lead lap, but that final incident with Tim Salvatore put the nails in his coffin for the night, and he has to come home 9th. His championship battle gets much tougher, but it's certainly not impossible. 2 races to go, including 1 for double points. David Paxton, though, will come home 10th. Paxton rounds out the top and bottom of the top 10. After that, Carl Dronke finishes in the 38 car in 11th position, your final driver left in tonight's race. Another guy who at times showed flashes that he could do even more than what he was doing. He was actually in the competition for 4th and 5th at times throughout the race, but unfortunately things did just not go his way. Towards the end there, he'll have to settle for 11th. Caleb Campbell in the 12th spot will come home after that. I don't know why he left the session. Again, never hit the incident point limit, so mysterious circumstances for him. Manuel Guerra after that, 1 lap ahead of Jack Hillier, both drivers leaving the race late. And Jack Hillier, my co-commentator last week, unfortunately will come home with 14th tonight, but he'll look to improve next week at Gateway. Oh, that being said, it was a good race. It was good and competitive, but man, races like that do nothing but tire you out. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that race as much as I do. And of course, we are not done for the night. Of course, if you guys don't want to stick around for the interviews, that is always up to you. But sometimes we get some really good insights from the drivers at home, and I know they certainly appreciating that their words post-race are heard. So we're going to go to your first interview of the night with 3rd place finisher, a guy I've talked to many times, always a very well-spoken guy, Mr. Max Preston. Let's pull him into the interview booth in just a moment. Hey, Max, it's Marshall in the booth. You got me?
Hey, Marshall, what's going on?
Oh, not too much. I've certainly had a busy night, you could say. It was a very action-packed race from start to finish, and you were so much of that, of the reason for that being the case. You were having battles from start to finish there. The first one I want to go over is, the one at the beginning that didn't turn out well for, I guess, both yourself and Andrew and Trevor, but that battle at the beginning between yourself, Trevor Anderson, and Andrew Bedrosian, just the 3 of you so competitive. The Kemmel Straight seemed to be keeping you guys close, but can you talk through what it is about this track that seems to form great battles and the aftermath of that spin there with Trevor and Andrew?
Yeah, you know what? It's a great question, because this track is, of course, it's the longest circuit, I believe, on the Formula One calendar. So when we're in the Indy Pros, it can feel like an eternity, especially coming down the long back straight there. But that's part and parcel to what adds to, the battles that this track seems to produce, because you have that nice big long straightaway, 2 of them, and followed by quite a bit of distance in between turn to turn. And what that does is allows that draft, a bit of horsepower to come back, a bit of speed to come back. So I know without the draft, I was topping out, I think, at around 234 kilometers per hour. Pardon me, American viewers, but I don't know the conversion. And so, but in the draft, it was 241, 242. So it was about 5 kilometers per hour difference. So that would keep the guys behind me, at least keep them from a speed perspective right close to my transmission there in the back of the car. But the thing is that when we get to the turns, when we get to the high speeds, that dirty air that the wings produce, it's counter-effective, right? So what they gain on the straights, they lose in downforce and aerodynamics mid-turn, mid-exit, and it just unbalances the car. So it's a bit of a dance, really. Timing for them and for me is, in the various different battles I was in throughout this whole race, it was about, okay, how can I time when I'm going to exit the turn, get enough of a run, if I can ace the exit, but not so much where I'm going to be right on the back end and losing that downforce. Can I time it enough where I can do a dive bomb or get it done the way I need to get it done? So that was my thought process. Now, that first battle, which was the opening stages of the race, the strategy in my head really was this. I know 100% that Logan and Andrew were the 2 fastest guys on the track. guessed correctly at what Logan was going to do on the first green flag there as I saw him run wide. So I basically just followed his tracks, and we got a fantastic start. And to be honest with you, Marshall, I knew that it was only inevitable when Andrew was going to pass me. So I did the best I could, and I just truly trained it. That was really my core strategy for that opening stage of the race. Was okay, I'm going to use this, warm my tires up, cause a bit of a build up here, and hopefully what that'll do is allow the pack to start battling with each other, and maybe it'll even itself out. Well, it did. It's just the thing is, it didn't even itself out in my favor because I lost traction coming around that high-speed left-hander coming into the final section and the final chicane. So too bad, but that's racing. So a good thing I didn't hit the wall. That was my critical concern. So I kept it out of the wall and just put it back on track and just kept my head down, hoping my VR wouldn't be the death of me. And thank God it wasn't, because I got a little nervous with 3 laps to go, and I'll tell that story after. But so big thing with this track, timing, smoothness, use that draft, but that draft can also be the downfall. So I think what this race was maybe a battle of experience in that regard. And, I think everyone drove great out there. It was a hard race, but it was definitely a race that took, a lot of different driving styles, changing my driving style the whole time, and just constantly strategizing, coming up with plan A, B, C, D, E, and F, and G, because that's just what I had to have in my back pocket as the race was unfolding in front of me. So yeah, interesting race for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about strategy there at the end, and I mean, certainly it was a thing that coming in, nobody really knew with tires and stuff how brutal it was going to be. We learned in the practice race yesterday that, keeping the tires for long periods of time is kind of a fool's endeavor at a certain point. So strategy was going to be a big talking point in general for any driver, but in your case specifically, about halfway through the race, as you start to figure out, okay, who am I going to be battling with to the end, were you thinking about the overall championship situation you're in? Because you and Trevor Anderson, who battled all race throughout multiple situations, are very close in the championship. You're both the top 2 guys in the battle for third. You might even tie on the way the point system works going into the final 2 rounds. So you guys have been competitive all season in the points, but to be competitive on track, are you the type to think about the overall championship situation in that moment, or were you just focused on running your race, hitting your marks, executing your strategy, and just going for third in a vacuum?
Well, in my opinion, absolutely. I mean, if I wasn't factoring in the overall championship, then I don't think I would be doing, my experience as a driver any good, because ultimately, as I'm out there, I'm making these decisions. I'm trying to understand a few things. One, it's always, obviously to finish first, second, third, you have to finish the race, right? But more importantly than that is the greater effect that it's going to have on the championship. To be honest with you, I had no idea that Bedrosian spun out, and don't even know where it happened, don't know when it happened. I just found out somewhere halfway through the race that it did. So that had me tallying up the points as I'm driving, and I was counting in front of me. So we have Rich Foligno, Trevor Anderson, I knew Trevor was right with me in the championship, and with Bedrosian somewhere behind me, but a second faster than myself. I was considering that as well, and considering my battle with Trevor, what was the best thing to do? Was it best to, even finish 4th behind him? Because there's still 3 races left of the championship. If I'm gonna finish 4th, then I'd rather finish 4th than try to finish 3rd, and both Trevor and I end up crashing, and then now we're 5th and 6th in the championship, right? So it was a lot of decision making, and as you saw, one of the times that Trevor was attempting to overtake me on the front straight, I actually didn't defend on him at all, because I was expecting to let him through, but it just didn't work out in that manner, because at that point in the race, it was going to be this, either Trevor is faster than me and I can't catch him, and I'm going to come 4th. I'm going to lose 3rd place and go into 4th position and hang here until about 1 lap to go, where that's, in my opinion, the preferable spot to be in that battle. Or something else is going to happen. And, turn after turn, lap after lap, in battle after battle, eventually one of us just ended up losing traction. It was bound to happen. And I have to thank Trevor for driving like an absolute gangster out there, because he had sweat rolling down my back every single time I was battling wheel to wheel, and I couldn't give him better kudos than that. I mean, he drove great. He deserves to be mentioned because it was a really, really, really tough battle, and I know I'll be looking forward to the next race battling him again.
Oh, you guys ran the perfect race. That looked like an F1 race out there. There was just so much poise, and you guys weren't pushing each other like to the point where it looked like it was dangerous. At no point was I anticipating a crash between the two of you. It was incredible to watch, and yeah, kudos absolutely deserved both ways, and I'm sure he'd return the sentiment if he had finished on podium. But speaking of, we got the momentum going now with the kudos. So if there's anybody at home, as usual, you want to give shout-outs to, or any sponsors you want to thank before the end of your interview.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, I always have to thank my family, my wife, Alyssa, my parents, Gabriella and Mike, my sister, Jenna, my in-laws as well, Anthony, Nancy, Rizzo, Courtney, Keith, Metcalf, Jensen, and Alora. Thanks for watching, guys. Always appreciated. Much love from Newmarket. On the sponsorship side of things, of course, I always got to mention my friends over at Lumo Marketing. You do a fantastic job building websites, generally marketing businesses. They do a phenomenal job on the creative side. Any marketing assistance that you need, reach out to lumo.ca. They do fantastic work. And on top of that as well, I'd like to add gohotwater.ca. Go Hot Water is our local heating and air conditioning company that services Ontario. And what they're going to be doing is they're actually sponsoring me for the upcoming Pinty NASCAR race that I'll be driving in. So that's happening on Labor Day weekend at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. So that's really exciting. Finally, big kudos. Always got to give good luck. Little man, Rock Man down there. Rocco Simone, Anthony Simone. Guys, good luck Florida Winter Tour. Keep kicking butt. You're doing a great job, bud. And we'll see you back up here in Canada in no time. Thanks, Marshall. Great race. Great show. As always, you put on a great series. Always happy to come out to anything that you put on. Thanks for you to organizing, and thanks to Vince for officiating. It was a great day. I had a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thank you, Max. I can't put into words how much I appreciate the kind words there. And yeah, you've more than earned that ride in the Penny Series, man, because you proved tonight that the poise you have, the patience you got, it's going to pay off well for you. And I can't wait to see how your endeavors go. So you got to keep me in the loop there once this is over. And I'm sure that by the time the next series comes around, you'll have done great things there that we got to put a little bio there under your name in the interviews. But Max Preston, Penny Series winner or something like that, because I'd say it's a genuine possibility, man. So have a great rest of your week. It's always a pleasure, man. And we will see you next week at Gateway. You don't have an oval win yet in one of my series, but hey, next week might be the opportunity.
I'll be looking forward to it. I'll be practicing. And Marshall, an invitation is always waiting for you for any Pinty Series race or anything beyond, my friend. Thanks for a good show, and we'll talk to you next time.
Awesome. Really appreciate that, man. See ya.
See you later.
And with that, that'll round off your first interview of the night. And man, Max Preston, just such a good guy. He's so great to interview, man. Like it's a feature that'll make him great for stuff like that. I don't know who broadcast the Penny Series. Maybe I should. Maybe that's an opportunity I need to look into in the future. But yeah, I'm sure he's going to be great in those interviews. And I mean, again, if he shows the talent he showed tonight, there is no doubt that he could put himself in victory lane a number of times. But here is your second place finisher tonight. Another great spoken guy, a guy who knows Preston very well. Mr. Justin Lulick. Let's pull him into the booth for his second interview of the year. Hey, Justin, it's Marshall in the booth. You got me?
Hi, Marshall. Yes, I do have you. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I mean, I would say, how about yourself? But I can imagine that was a comfortable second place performance tonight. Probably more so than any second place anybody's got all season. I mean, first of all, just walk us through the start there. Strategy was going to be so important in the way people tackled this race. I mean, you come home after the start. I know you lost a spot there in the first corner, but after that, once the battle really picked up in front of you, you seemed to just kind of hang back a little bit, wait for things to happen in front of you, and then once it did, you put yourself into second and didn't look back. Was that strategy of just waiting for an incident in front intentional, or was it just a situation of you were going to get in the battle if it didn't end as soon as it did?
No, it definitely was intentional. You know, I've done a lot of racing at Spa over the years. I love this track. It's on my bucket list. Hopefully one day I can actually be on this hallowed ground. But yeah, no, it was definitely intentional. You know, with racing at this track especially, a lot of the time, you know, the race comes down to the final laps, right? So in the first couple laps, when you're just trying to find your footing, you're trying to get the heat in the tires, you know, get comfortable with the car. I find a lot of people are very jumpy and antsy, and that's when you run into issues. So I just figured if I drop back a little bit, kind of watch the action from where I was, and I think Tim was behind me and in the same position, we just kind of looked at it and said, okay, well, eventually something's going to happen, and as long as it's the first half of the race, you know, we don't really need to be right on their butts. So yeah, no, it was definitely intentional just to sit there and kind of wait for our opportunity to strike.
And once you did, you move up into the second place spot, and you knew Logan was going to come in with tons of pace, as he always does here. Spa's a very technical track, and he showed his skills tonight. But you did as well, and Spa being a track that I know you're going to know very well from your background. You're a diehard F1 fan in your own time, and surely, I mean, you were here in the old Karts to Computer series. We ran here a few times in the Skip Barber, so. Was your knowledge of the track there from various series and F1 particularly over the years, do you think that comes into play with you being so comfortable in terms of race pace? And additionally, was your experience from the Skip Barber in previous seasons, how easy was that to translate into the new Indy Pro for this season?
So, to start with the car, I find that there are obviously big differences between the Skip Barber that we ran last year and the Indy Pro that we're running this season. But at the end of the day, you know, the fundamentals are the same. The apexes are relatively the same. And as long as you can kind of, you know, take a step back and look at the bigger picture and say, okay, how are these cars different? What's going to be similar? And kind of diagnose it like that. I find if you have that previous experience, and this goes for any driver, if you have that previous experience and you're able to get the practice in the next level up, if it's karting, let's say, for example, if you get the experience in Briggs and you're moving into two-stroke, that experience, regardless of how comparable the two vehicles are, is huge just for your own personal understanding.
Right.
The way I look at racing in a lot of ways, especially as I was growing up, is when you're just starting out, the only person you're racing with is yourself. And as long as you're doing better every session and working your way up, then that is more than enough to be proud of.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what's so great about a longer season and so much time to learn this car in particular. Is you get a handle on it, and particularly for tracks that you know well, it becomes easier to adapt. And certainly, again, as you just mentioned, you've run a variety of series over the course of your real life on track racing career, so you have that knowledge to adapt from one car into another, and it certainly paid off tonight. I mean, you get your, I believe is this your first second of the season? You've had obviously the podium earlier this year, I think at Mossport perhaps, but is this your highest finish of the year?
Yeah, so I think this is my second place of the year. I believe
Gotcha.
my first second place was at Detroit a little bit earlier in the first round of Detroit.
Yep.
But this has been a weird series for me, or a weird season for me this year. I've run into a lot of bad luck, wrong place at the wrong time.
Mm-hmm.
So to finally have things kind of come together and be able to be a little bit more in control of my destiny, you know, it really felt good to get back in the seat and feel comfortable. So once those first couple laps ended and we were all clean, it was just focus on going forward and try to, you know, limit mistakes as much as I could.
Yeah, absolutely. No, for sure. Your results to this point in the season don't truly tell the whole story of how quick you've been and how consistent you can be at some of these more difficult road courses that might give other people some troubles. And it worked for you tonight. You come home with a dominant second place, well clear of the rest of the field there, even by the end. And you know, going into the rest of the season, the biggest question is, as in our final two rounds, we go to Gateway next week for the final oval of the season, then we go to Laguna for the final round. What is the bucket list goal at this point? Are you looking for that win? Are you looking to finally get over the hump? Are you looking to, you know, keep it in the podium for the next few races? Are you looking to get your first win at an oval in one of my series? Like, what is the goal for yourself in the final two races to cap off the year?
I think overall the goal of the series and being in the series is to have fun and enjoy sharing the passion of motorsports with other like-minded individuals. I've loved every second running this series, running the first one that you ran during quarantine. It's brought me so much joy. I've loved just being able to compete. And for me, I mean, obviously my goal as a race car driver is to win and to do well. But overall, I'm just happy that I'm able to be here. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to race, and at the end of the day, that's the most amazing feeling in the world. But in terms of what I'm hoping for, I love Laguna Seca. It's probably my favorite track in the world, so I'm really excited to go there and be able to, you know, show the pace that I have.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to seeing if we're back in this particular Discord booth in just a couple weeks' time then. So I wish you the best of luck for the rest of the year. And I'd imagine you just talked about you come up to this for the love of the series and the love of, you know, being with the people who are like-minded in racing. But at the same time, you've got people supporting you all the way through the season. You've had so many people supporting you in the chat this year. So as you go in your, you know, usual interview thank you session and any sponsors you want to mention, I'm sure there are many people in the chat side of things at home that would appreciate the mention.
Yeah, well, first of all, for sure, I'd like to thank my dad, Peter Lewick. I mean, he's giving me this opportunity to chase our dreams together, and just enjoy the passion behind motorsports. So first and foremost, my biggest thank you goes to him. Also my mom and my brother who are watching at home. I don't know if my sister's watching at home, but shout out to her too. And then also my girlfriend Hillary Flockstra and her entire family. They watch all the time and they love it. So I'm just so happy I have their support, and I have people who are here to cheer me on. And then last but definitely not least, my roommate Jamie. He has been supporting my Cars to Computers since we started the series, and it's just so nice to be able to do well and then have friends proud of you after watching that performance. So a lot of people at home that I'm very grateful for, and of course you, Marshall. Thank you for hosting this series. Thank you for getting us all together, and thank you for providing such an amazing stream to go with it. It's fantastic watching it back. It's fantastic knowing that I have people who are able to see it and who are proud when I make a good move, and you've provided that for all of us drivers with the series, and I think we all owe you a huge thank you.
Well, that means so much to me, man. It always means more to me. I'm sure that you guys get to have that experience, and people at home get to really enjoy what you're doing. And tonight you gave them a race to be proud of, man. Hold your head high and going into the last two races, especially if you like Laguna so much. I really hope to see you translate it there, keep the momentum up, and I just get the feeling with the kind of performances you've been putting on lately, if that luck can turn in your favor, you'll have a great rest of the season to cap off the year. So have a great rest of your week, Justin. We will see you next week, hopefully to practice, but if not, we will see you Friday night at Gateway, and have a great rest of your weekend, man.
Thank you. You too. Have a great weekend. Have a great night. And to everybody watching, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for watching what we love to do. It's because of Marshall and because of you guys at home watching that we're able to have this experience all together. So just thank you to everybody for coming together and making this an awesome experience.
Awesome. Thank you, Justin. Have a great rest of your week, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. You too. Good night.
And with that, that'll round off your second interview of the night with Mr. Justin Lulick. Some really great stand-up guys we got here in the podium tonight. It's been a pleasure, and all guys very deserving to be in here. And again, so many guys could potentially make it into the podiums in the final two races, especially next week at Gateway. I can't even hide it. I am so excited for Gateway. I was excited for tonight. I know the drivers were too, but Gateway next week, man. We're going to try to get as many drivers as we can. I assure all of you guys, if you have any time next Friday, that is the one you want to come out for. But for your final interview of the night, for probably, I think, the 10th or 11th time this season, I talk to Logan Pax all the time, possibly more so than some of the people directly in my life. We seem to have that connection on Friday night. So let's pull him in the booth tonight for your final interview of the race. Hey, Logan, it's Marshall in the booth. You got me?
I got you.
Awesome. Well, first of all, man, it was very reminiscent of the first season of Cars to Computers tonight. You got ahead there off the start, and once things seemed to break down for a couple other guys, it was just smooth sailing for you here at Spa. You've had so much poise, so much pace here. Really, every race we've ever run. Is there just something about this Spa track that seems to tune with you well? Something about it being technical, all sorts of corners. Just what works for you so well here at Spa-Francorchamps?
Well, I would definitely say this is a special track for me. Not because of any sort of past history with it. It just seems that the layout of the corners and the way it's made, it suits me in a strange way. Before I came into the race, I really tried to ask myself, why am I fast here compared to other tracks? And what I think I concluded on is I enjoy things that flow well, right? And if you look at Spa, it flows very, very nicely, right? It's long sweeping corners, right? Almost everywhere. And I think that's why I'm very accustomed to this track.
Well, you certainly you were more accustomed to it than I. Yesterday in our practice attempts, you were blowing me and everybody else out of the water, so you knew you were going to be quick tonight. But was there anything in the back of your head, like, you're fighting for a championship here tonight, that, I mean, it is not set in stone tonight, but you certainly did a good job to hold down in your effort tonight. But was there anything that was giving you worries? Maybe something about colder tires that might give you some worries late in the race? Maybe something about lap traffic being any different tonight? Was there anything that was giving you worries coming into tonight aside from the usual?
Not really, no. One thing, I believe I talked to you about this during one of the practice races as well, is the tires do wear relatively quickly at Spa.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that comes along with that is the tires also come up to temperature very quickly because they're being used so much. So I really didn't find myself worrying about cold tires. Obviously, the first couple corners were a little bit sketchy, but other than that, after maybe 50% of the first lap, I felt very at home again. So I didn't really have any outstanding worries coming into this race.
Yeah, it certainly didn't look like it. There was, between, lap traffic seeming to cooperate all the way through, and you just not having any issues with the track. And again, as I mentioned, people around you just had all sorts of chaotic races. Both the guys on the podium with you certainly didn't have an easy time of it tonight. But yeah, so again, you clean up here. You get win number 9 this season. You're getting towards the double digits there, man. But yeah, the championship is getting almost locked up. I mean, Andrew tonight, just an unfortunate luck for him, got just gotten involved in an incident twice, which certainly didn't play into his efforts. So with 2 races to go, we go to Gateway next week, another oval. You're a defending oval champion at a very similar oval, also a night race at Iowa. So is that something you're looking to repeat next week? Do you think you can do it again at an oval to get win number 10? And then at Laguna Seca, Justin just said he was feeling confident. He said it's a track he likes a lot. That's another one that feels very flowing as well. So are you going to carry that similar ability at a track with lots of flowing corners into Laguna Seca? And do you think we'll see win number 10 from you in the next 2 weeks?
Well, firstly, to touch on Gateway, I did 1 or 2 laps yesterday. And one very interesting thing I found is that the banking isn't nearly as aggressive as any oval we've gone on before. So there's actually lifting involved. Previous ovals have always been flat out, even in tow. So, and that obviously kept the pack very close together because there was no real technique, right? Because you just kind of turn the wheel, you let the car flow. But because there's going to be lifting, I think it'll be a more spread out oval race, and I think that driving ability will be much higher of a value in this race. And then secondly, to touch on Laguna, I agree with you, it's a very flowing track. Slightly smaller room for error. Obviously at Spa you have lots of runoffs in places where it's convenient, but for Laguna you have the curb and then you have the dirt. So that's the one thing that's slightly different, but I agree with you. I think that the track is very flowing, and I'm interested to see if this kind of this little leg up I find when I'm driving on more flowing tracks might carry over.
I mean, what it has in the past. You've had success there in the I think the first season of Karts and Computers where you beat Matt Clark, which was a guy who hasn't shown up in a while. So that was kind of his last big race in the series, and you guys made it count. But yeah, I know Andrew was talented there last season, and the Karts and Computers season 2 didn't come away with the win. Max did, but he's going to be fighting you, I'm sure, through the last 2 rounds, and especially if the track is as technical as Gateway seems to be. It's been a while, and I haven't tested it with the new tire model, so I'm excited to hear it's going to be more technical, more tricky, and well, if that's the case, it's worked for you all season. You've at technical tracks, you've had tons of pace, and it's the reason you got 9 wins to this point, man. So, as we always do in the interviews, it's always well earned for you there, Logan. But now's your time to give some shout outs to people in the chat. Your mom, as always, was a heavy factor there, and yeah, as always, the same with sponsors. If there's anyone to mention.
Yeah, I'd like to thank all my family that watched the broadcast. I'd like to thank Special Interest Auto, Franklin Self Storage, and Rev Performance. As well. I'd like to thank Prime Power Team, and I'd like to thank you, Marshall, for putting this stuff together, man.
Awesome. Thank you very much, man. Have a great rest of your week heading into Gateway next week. We're going to try to get as many guys on track as possible to give you a little bit, a few more, points of competition potentially. But one more thing I want to mention, I did mention it on the broadcast, but I wanted to mention it in person, is just congrats on the livery there, man. That is a sick piece of paint you managed to put together. And again, I mentioned you did do that yourself. So multi-talented, multifaceted driver in the series. And yeah, I can't wait to see that Brill Art paint next week here at Gateway under the lights.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Awesome. Have a great rest of your week, Logan. We'll see you next Friday.
Sounds good, man. See you later.
Yeah. And with that, we will round off your final interview of the night with Mr. Logan Paxa. We're going to put up your final race results one more time, and with that, we're going to head off the air. It's a bit of a long broadcast tonight, but hey, you can always use one every once in a while, and it's a long track like Spa-Francorchamps, so never hurts to make it a little bit longer. But there are your final results. Of course, race winner tonight, number 9 on the season, Mr. Logan Pax, Justin Lewick and Max Preston round off your top 3, and that battle for 2nd and 3rd in the championship gets ever more competitive. With that, I am, as always, your commentator, Mr. Marshall Crocker Jr. The photo never gets any better. Maybe one day I'll take professional shots, but you might have to wait for a future series for that. That being said, have a great rest of your night, everybody. Thank you, as always, for coming out to watch our race. I always appreciate it. I know the drivers do, and it means so much to all of us that you're able to make it out. So for next week, we're going to Gateway, as I mentioned, another oval. Things are going to get nuts. We could see some surprise podiums, some surprise wins, and things are going to get fun. So make sure you tune in next week, same time as usual, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, or sometime just before that. I know I post the links for 7:50, but sometimes it goes a few minutes past. So sometime in that ballpark, we're going to be going live. So just be tuned on YouTube, get ready for a great night of racing, and we will see you all next week. For myself, for Vince Ball, our race director, and every driver in the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series, I do it once at the end of every broadcast. So there it was for the race. We're not the Karts and Computer Series anymore. We are the Snowstorm Open Wheel Racing Series, and we are coming to a close. We will see you all next Friday, and have a great rest of your week, everybody.